What is up, guys? Welcome back to Technical Foul. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack Anderson. I'm flanked by JP Pusilowski. How's it going, JP?
What's up, guys?
And Sanders Oakley.
What's up? No intro. No intro.
I had a couple options. The podcast Housewife was one of them. You always clean up the set, getting things set up, and we do greatly
I
appreciate
cleaned up
that.
one time just now.
But you do a lot of
Oh,
setup
true,
and
true,
stuff
true,
too,
true,
and
true.
take down. Which is once again much appreciated. I floated that one out there, and then NBA Casual was another one I thought about tossing out there.
That is absolutely factual. Honestly, casual might be a generous term.
I think you're casual.
Okay.
You watch highlights when you see them on Instagram
Yeah.
or something
I
like
mean,
that. You watch if a game
My
NBA
Twitter
game's on,
feed
you're gonna
knows
watch.
to show me. My Twitter feed knows to give me highlights and stuff like that.
You know, you could name last year's MVP.
It was Jokic, right? Yeah.
Let's move to the topic
Perfect.
at hand.
Yeah.
We have Mock Draft 2.0 for y'all in this episode. We're doing a little different than 1.0. We split up the teams, so we're operating as separate entities in this episode. Sanders has the Titans, I have the Browns, and JP has the Giants, and it just keeps going from there. So Sanders has the Patriots, and then I'll get the pick 5, who is the Jaguars. Thank you. I should know as I'm the
As
team
the
of the
GM.
Jaguars for the night. But we'll get there. It should be a good time. We looked at our mock draft our mock draft 1.0 about a week after we did, and was like, "Wow, this sucks."
Yeah.
I
I don't know how confident I am that this one's gonna be better. So.
think we can amend. It'll be a little better in a couple spots. We'll probably look back in a week from now before we do our final mock draft and be like, "Wow, this one sucks." This is since we're operating as a team's GM, we are doing what we would do in their team spot. We're
Yep.
not trying to predict what we think is going to happen draft night, if that makes sense. So if we, I don't know, an example. Shadur Sanders the favorites to go to the Saints, or the Saints are the favorite to take Shadur Sanders. That does not mean Shadur Sanders is going to go to the Saints if I was in the spot drafting for the Saints if I disagree with that pick. Maybe not the best way to explain it, but that's how I'm going to explain it. We're going to have 3 minutes per pick to make the pick and break down each pick, and break down what we think about the team. I don't really have much else to say. I think we can get rolling pretty quickly here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Without further ado, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock.
Oh yeah, let me change.
Do I need to hook up my phone and get the
Yeah.
The sound
go
bite
ahead and get
rolling?
that, honestly. Well, you've got 3 minutes here.
Yeah. All right.
Sanders is on the clock, but the clock hasn't started
Yep,
yet.
it's there's a lot happening. There we go. The clock
and
has
the clock
started.
has started.
We've got the
Sanders, I have a trade I would like to offer you.
No, I'm the one with the pick. I'm proposing you a trade to the New Orleans Saints.
I'm declining the trade. As the Giants GM, I am proposing the 3rd overall pick, our 2nd round pick, the 34th, and a 1st and 2nd in next year's draft for the number 1 overall pick.
That's a pretty big haul.
I
And
am
it-
absolutely taking that. That's crazy.
And I haven't finished yet.
Oh gosh.
Oh.
Jeffrey Simmons.
So you're giving me 1-2-1-2 for 1 and Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah, and throw in a 4th round in this year's draft.
Whoa.
next year's
Whoa. You stop talking. You can't just keep throwing more stuff on.
That's
He can though.
my final offer.
All right, I'm going to put the Giants on hold, call the Saints, and say, "What's up, Saints?
What's up?
I want Chris Olave. This year's first, this year's second, and next year's first for this year's first."
No deal.
All right.
If this was deal or no deal, I would slam that button case closed. No, thank you.
That is not, given what you just offered as the Giants GM, that is an interesting.
Well, he has personal stake here.
This is very
be
true. I
real.
think he's letting his personal. All right, you said 1-2-1-2 for my first and Jeffrey Simmons.
And a 4th in this year's.
Whoa, no.
and a 4th in next year.
No, that is part of his deal.
That's part of the deal.
You take out the force, and I'm saying yes. You leave in the force, I'm saying no.
I'm leaving the 4th in.
All right, no deal. I will be selecting first overall.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, Cam Ward, first overall.
Yeah.
I thought it went longer than that. My bad.
I think it maybe is a little short in clip, but also I didn't know if you were waiting for me to
Nope,
make the
that's on me.
I think you
selection.
should announce your own pick.
I agree,
I agree.
because I don't want to know y'all's pick until y'all make it potentially.
Yeah, I agree.
Depending on how you break it down, and that puts your boy on the clock as the GM of the Browns.
All right, let me go restart the clock. There we go. You're good. Fire away.
I mean, this pick kind of goes one or two ways, pretty clearly. You know, I like how we didn't really break down the Cam Ward pick at all, but I think
there's
it's
nothing to
very
break down.
self-explanatory. Correct.
The only thing that would have been interesting is if there was a trade there, and unfortunately we couldn't work it out.
I've already broke it down in one of our latest TikToks too. So go.
This is
go watch that.
true. I think the pick here is Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. It just depends on which way the GM wants to go. They do have a QB need, but it just doesn't make any sense to take it here. Cam Ward's off the board, and you're just kind of screwed for the next couple years anyway. So just get one later down the line. Gosh, it's just I'm sitting here. I don't know if I want Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. The pairing of Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter is very enticing. From a fan standpoint, it'd be a ton of fun to watch. But Travis Hunter, just the athleticism and the dynamic ability, it's hard to pass up. With that being said, I will be taking Abdul Carter.
Good decision there. That is, as far as Abdul Carter goes, he gets comparisons to Micah Parsons, and I think he could be better in the next 3 years. Just given how well he's played at the college level, and he was doing that in his first year on the line, as opposed to the first 2 years where he was playing off-the-ball linebacker. I think you put him in an NFL weight room and NFL trainers and NFL coaches, he could be an elite edge rusher in year one. Or he could be a good edge rusher in year one and elite by year 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, there's just realistically, there's not a wrong pick either way.
Yep.
I mean, I guess we could look back in 3 years and go, wow, they really screwed that one up. But from just the standpoint of looking at it current day, I don't think
JP,
there's a wrong choice.
the New York Giants are now on the clock.
Yes, indeed they are. Out here in New York, everything's going great, nice and breezy. Obviously, we have an electric football team, having signed Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson this offseason.
Did we say how long we get per pick at the beginning of the episode?
I said 3 minutes. Yeah.
Continue, JP.
Yeah. Cam Ward's off the board. We offered, in my opinion, a good enough package to land the number 1 overall pick. That was declined over 4th-round picks. I can't wait to see who the Titans take with their 4th-round pick, who will obviously provide just as much value as next year's 1st overall pick, Arch Manning, when we tank this season. But here with the Giants, I'm surprised if in our first mock, we mocked them making a huge mistake again with their GM and taking Mason Graham. I just don't think they're going to let I do think there's a chance to take Shador here. I still feel pretty confident that that's a possibility. I believe it's the 2nd in terms of Vegas odds. For him to land with New York. But
this is also your pick too. So.
Yeah, it's not the New York Giants GM. It's you.
Your needs: quarterback, tackle, defensive line, and corner. I think best case scenario for the Giants is obviously you get to have Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, and that is here. When I mocked this earlier, I was able to select Abdul Carter. The Browns took Travis Hunter. In my opinion, the Browns made a mistake letting Travis Hunter fall to 3. So without further ado, I would like to make my pick here with the New York Giants at 3. And that pick will be, with the 3rd overall pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the New York Giants select Travis Hunter, cornerback, Colorado. That's right, I said cornerback. The teams get to decide which position is put on the ballot. And as the Giants GM, I'm going to put him as a cornerback and have him play a little bit of receiver here and there. But I'm going to select Travis Hunter.
I think it's a good pick.
All right, this falls to me.
I was gonna say, this is where the draft really feels like it starts to get
Yeah, now
interesting.
I'm going to go ahead and start the timer, and 3 minutes is about to fly by, I feel like. The New England Patriots have multiple needs at running back, wide receiver, and offensive line. Last year, they ranked 32nd in run block grade. It was an atrocious run game. They had a second-year running back in Ramondre Stevens. I would love to go Ashton Genty here, but as a believer in offensive line in general matters more to
You're
run
also
game
just an
than
Ashton
running
Genty
back.
hater. We've been there,
Never once in my life have I said that I hate Ashton Genty.
just said it right there.
Uh,
I hate Ashton Genty. I could clip that right now and post it.
y'all are just making me waste time. I don't think that the run game can be fixed by taking a running back. Other needs are wide receiver and offensive line. JP disagrees about that take.
I mean, let's be real. If Bryce Young, if Drake May's getting killed in the pocket, no time to get the ball out to the receivers. So.
Correct, which is why I would think that I will be going offensive line here. I am leaning. Will Campbell is tempting. It's Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks. I'm going to go pull up Will Campbell. There are concerns about his size. We've talked about this I think we talked about it in the previous mock draft.
Talked about it multiple times.
And then we talked about it in my video.
Yeah, TikTok.
My TikTok that I made, and I don't remember what it was about, honestly.
Genty.
It was about Genty to the
here.
Raiders.
How much you hated him
Yep, that's what I said.
to the Patriots. Not the
Kelvin
Raiders.
Banks.
Yeah, you had Genty going to the Patriots in your TikTok.
Yes. Oh, did I? Yeah, it was the Patriots. I think I will be going Kelvin Banks Jr.
Okay. My
yeah,
bad. I
so-
didn't get to play the soundbite.
My bad. I got
let's
locked
play the
into my
sound.
Yeah, we gotta do it for.
Yep, do it. With the 4th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, I'm taking Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle, Texas. I feel like at the end of the season, what's up?
Can you back up that claim, please?
What did I back up?
The claim of Kelvin Banks at 4. Why would you take him at 4?
Because I think he is a better offensive tackle than Will Campbell. Will Campbell's size concerns me. And then also I think that Kelvin Banks played very good all of last season until postseason when he was dealing with an ankle injury. So I think he's very talented. I think he has the size needed. And if you look at his pass blocking grades from last year, he was a very good pass blocker, which gives Drake May more time to throw to the wide receivers, which we will be taking in the 2nd round.
This is crazy.
What?
I just think that's a reach, in my opinion.
That is.
I think.
Oh, I have think.
There's the
don't
little
worry,
timer.
I have my computer muted. So.
But I do think that's a little bit of a reach. But I think it's part of it. It's just the Patriots are going to be in an awful spot here at 4.
Agreed.
Miss out on the top guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scrambling from there.
Right.
And having already answered their quarterback questions last year, they don't get to answer them with Shador this year.
The reality is I think the gap between 4 and what was Kelvin Banks ranked 20-something.
21st.
The gap between 4 and 21st is closer than the gap between 3 and 4.
Sure, maybe.
So I would say when you drop off from Travis Hunter to the next guy, it's a bigger drop off than whoever PFF's 4th ranked player, which is Tedero McMillan or Mason Graham. They're 3 and 4. The difference between them and Kelvin Banks Jr. at 21 is
Sure.
smaller. So I'm not a huge fan of Will Campbell. There's other offensive tackles on the board like Amon Membu, Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. I'm not quite sure what happened with Kelvin Banks Jr. because at the end of the season, it was him and Will Campbell as 1 and 2 as far as offensive tackles go.
And he slid a little bit.
He has slid a little bit. I'm going to take the in-season performance over whatever testing happened that caused him to fall. I'm not sure what that was. I didn't keep up with the combine
I mean,
to know.
Will Campbell's my tackle, my top tackle. Pretty clearly, I get the arm length concerns.
No, wingspan.
Wingspan
Remember.
concerns. Same thing. I know it's not
They are-
actually,
yeah.
but the words are synonymous. So apologies for screwing it up. The wingspan concerns. but they measured a little longer at his pro day.
Everyone did. It was wild.
And so I'm going to choose to believe those numbers and ride with my guy. I like his mentality anyway. I'm also A&M fan, so horns down. But we can move on to my pick.
Yep. Take it away.
With the Jaguars at 5. Couple big needs. I mean, they could use interior defensive line help. Some wide receiver depth potentially down the line in this draft. To go behind Brian Thomas, they did get De'Ami Brown. So that's not something I see them addressing this early in the draft because I don't think it's that big of a concern. Offensive line help could be needed as well as corner. But I think this is honestly a pretty layup pick, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and make my pick. Don't really want to beat around the bush if I don't see them doing the same. So with the 5th pick in the Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Mason Graham, interior defensive lineman out of Michigan.
All right. I like that pick.
It's a big. I think it's a good fit. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope, you're good.
But also just a lot of coach speak and new GM there has been given his goal and his culture he wants to instill there, and I think it aligns a lot with Michigan's culture and a guy like Mason Graham. So I think I would be pretty surprised if that's not the pick. To be
Makes
honest,
a lot more sense than him to the Giants.
yeah, it does. Once again, we in that mock draft we made a read saying the Giants are going to reach and make this mistake. So
Imagine it happens, then we get to clip that, repost it, and just go absolutely. I mean, we saw this coming a mile away.
yeah, we can look like geniuses.
Yeah. All right. You would.
I mean, if
Graham.
I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, he was very dominant inside, both as a run stopper, but also getting pressure and collapsing pockets at Michigan. So a versatile interior defensive lineman. And they have some decent edge rushers.
Yes, and Josh Hines, Allen, and
I'm blanking on his name.
Trayon Walker.
Yes, thank you.
Not to be confused with the other Georgia linebacker, Jalen Walker.
Yes.
Who's coming out in this class.
So I think with that already on the edges, trying to shore up the interior defensive line is a good move.
Yes. We'll be interested to see, just with a weaker secondary, how that goes. It's
Sure.
hard. But I would rather have a strong defensive line and a weak secondary than a strong secondary and a weak defensive line. So I'd say they built the defense the right way. If you had to choose one of the two.
Sure. I mean, nothing hurts more than not being able to stop the run. It's
Correct.
demoralizing.
Or forcing your defense to play pass defense for 6 seconds because you just can't get to the quarterback.
Sure.
So, JP, I'm going to go ahead and start the clock for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders had a disappointing season to say the least. They were in the bottom 5 in terms of quarterback play. It was utterly atrocious last year between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. It's really it's just questionable because why would you go into a season leaning on these two guys and then not take someone, even anyone in the draft at all? They hit perfectly on the Brock Bowers pick. And the fact that he was able to get to them is they will cherish Brock Bowers for the next 3 years, and whoever they bring in at quarterback will help. So they bring in Geno. So now Shedeur Sanders is probably not the answer, especially when you extend Geno for 2 years and give him some big money. It's really 1 year, and then a second year if he plays well this year that he's under contract. The fact that Ashton Jeanty has fallen here to 6. I think for a lot of mocks at this point, this is becoming pretty much a shoe-in that the Raiders are going to take Jeanty. He seems like a perfect fit. This is the Raiders team that was 32nd in rushing yards per game last year. One of the big reasons I won this trophy right here in fantasy football was because the team that I played, the number 1 overall seed, had one of the running backs for the Raiders who played that week. I believe it was Alexander Madison, and he played terrible. And it's not necessarily him. It was partially some offensive line fault, but they were just not special at running back, and to make a mistake in letting Josh Jacobs go and not giving him the money, it really hurt them. When you already aren't going to get good quarterback play, and now you don't even get good running game play, it's impossible to win games. And for them, it's almost more of a, damn, why did we win some of these games that we really didn't need to? Because we would rather be sitting here at 2 or 3 and able to get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, and now we're kind of forced into taking now a good running back in Ashton Genty.
A great running back.
But you kind of missed out on an opportunity to potentially get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, or even drafting Cam Ward instead of having to take a big swing on Geno Smith. So you can go and play the sound. I'm ready to make my pick. With the 6th overall pick in the technical foul 2025 2.0 mock draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Ashton Genty, tailback, Boise State. There's no difference between tailback and
About
halfback.
to say that's a wild.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said it. I feel like this is one of the more shoe-in picks of the draft, assuming we don't see a shocker and he's not on the board. It's just a desperate need for him, and they get eaten. Maybe I shouldn't say, because a lot of people are really high, including myself, on Marion Hampton. But you're getting the best running back in this class, and someone that could be special at the next level. So
Put yourself on the clock, sir.
Oh yeah, it's me, the New York Jets at 7. Let me start the clock.
Jets.
All right, so the New York Jets have needs at quarterback, wide receiver, and along the offensive line. They lost wide receiver Devontae Adams after his reunition, after he was reunited with Aaron Rodgers.
I think that's
Yeah.
reunion. I think was the word you were looking
Reunion.
for.
After his reunion, I made that a lot harder than it needed to be.
It happens. It took me a second to come up with reunion as well. So
After his reunion with Aaron Rodgers, he was there for half a season and is now gone. They have only Garrett Wilson. Well, not only, but their primary wide receiver is Garrett Wilson. They also have needs at quarterback. Their options right now are Justin Fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then offensive line. I like two wide. It makes me sad that Tedero McMillan and Luther Burden III both had such excellent sophomore seasons, and then experienced extreme junior slumps. I'm not sure. We talked about this previously for Luther Burden. It could come back to underperforming QB play. Brady Cook was injured for parts of the season. Missouri just underperformed for the whole season. They started preseason number 6, I believe, or were as high as number 6 in the AP poll.
I don't remember,
I
but
don't remember they getting the 6.
they were 10. They were
the
top
only-
10 when A&M beat them.
The only
so.
reason I remember this is because I was watching a Amon Mimbu tape, and
Gotcha.
on the scoreboard, I'm fairly certain it had Missouri at 6.
It's possible for sure.
Tedero McMillan had an excellent sophomore year with Noah Fafita as his quarterback, and his coach, who I can't remember his name, but just left to Washington after
Jed Fish.
Yes, Jed Fish. So he experienced coaching changes. I like Justin Fields. I have since he came out of college. I liked his potential because of what he provides as a run threat and his arm talent. The question has always been his decision making. I am going to continue to give him opportunities to succeed, at least for his time at the Jets. So, yeah, I've got my pick.
All right, let me cue up the sound.
With the 7th pick in the technical foul 2.0 mock draft, the New York Jets are selecting Tedero McMillan, wide receiver, Arizona.
Don't hate that.
I think it's a very, very big need for them. I was actually looking. Oh, I have it in my notes. So the New York Jets just had 2,000-yard receivers haven't had 2,000-yard receiver, like 2 players receive for 1,000 yards since like 2015, 2014, something like that. So wide receiver has been an issue for them there's my timer. My 3 minutes are up. Wide receiver has been a huge issue for them in an era of the NFL where the pass game is very different, as offenses have developed with guys like Andy Reid and Sean McVay and the Miami coach whose name I'm blanking on. It's just
Mike McDaniel.
thank you, Mike McDaniel. Offenses have evolved, and so I feel like the New York Jets have not evolved with those evolving offenses.
Sure.
All right,
I think it's a reach again. Sorry.
that's crazy.
I don't see. I see Ted McMillan. It might be a good fit for the Jets with the one already in Garrett Wilson, but he's. I think he's at best a really good 2.
That's
And I don't see Aaron Glenn taking this kind of receiver early in his first year coaching the Jets. I would be very surprised if this is not a team that, especially with Justin Fields, that would like to ground and pound and run the ball a ton. And when you're given the opportunity, I think with Will Campbell or Mimbu on the board, I would be, in my opinion, very surprised if this wasn't an offensive lineman or an edge rusher of some kind.
Sure.
very fair.
I think there's a good group of wide receivers that are going to be available as you come into the second round, or you even have the possibility of trading up back into the second round.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I think that Luther Burden and Tetro McMillan are in different categories from
Sure.
those
I
guys.
think the big thing there for me is just Justin Fields has never been, at least since he left Ohio State, a prolific thrower.
He also
Um,
has never had the wide receiver room like he had. I mean, at Ohio State, he had Olave
He
and
had
Garrett Wilson.
he had DJ Moore. He's had he had George Pickens last year. He's had receivers to throw to. You're not. And again, a prolific amount of weapons isn't something that's going to be very successful without something like an excellent defense, which Aaron Glenn hopes to have, or a prolific running game, similar to the way the Eagles look last year. Yeah, they've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but they also have just a prolific offense and defense, so it helps. Then it's just an embarrassment of riches when you have those kinds of weapons there. I don't hate the pick. I don't think it makes a ton of sense for the Jets. But you're the GM, not me.
I am. It's my job on
That was just Booger McFarland breaking it down on the set after the pick was announced. I like Ted McMillan, so I'm fine with the pick. I think I'm higher on him than most. But I also think that's not an objective. I'm higher on him than most. It's I like the player, so I'm
Yeah.
higher on him than most. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But we can go and roll into my pick. As the GM of the Panthers, pick 8 in this draft. Oh gosh, just yanked my headset off. Couple of different needs. Kind of a more free safety type. I could see them going something like that. It's a need, but I don't really think there's a player of that caliber to take this high. At that position. Edge rusher is something they could use. And then wide receiver is another pretty big hole. So it just comes down to what they want to do. Tet going off the board makes things interesting in the wide receiver department.
Very.
Because who is largely the consensus wide receiver 2, I would say, behind Travis Hunter, who, is a bit of a hybrid depending on how you want to classify him. And then edge is another interesting thought because there's definitely edges good enough to go this high. There's a lot of talented edges, but that's the thing is there's honestly a ton of edges. That's something you could dip back into the well in round 2 and find someone that's a really great player. And so I'm interested if they would go that route. Same with wide receiver, though. I mean, wide receiver is a position that I feel like is easier than some to add on later in the draft. But I got my pick. Okay. With the 8th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Carolina Panthers select Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas.
Wow.
That's where I assumed you were going.
I mean, it was in my notes. I had written gotta be Golden or Tet, and I kind of, since writing my notes, had not talked myself out of picking a wide receiver, but I was not as sure of that as I was earlier this afternoon. Just because they do have other issues. But I do think they really want to get behind Bryce Young and provide him support. It's a terrible, terrible wide receiver room. I think it may be the worst in the league. I don't
Yeah.
actually like. I think it is. I mean, the wide receiver one's Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
I would argue it is as well.
I don't. I couldn't walk you through all the wide receiver rooms, but it's abysmal.
The only one the Raiders could give him a run for their money.
You're giving not enough credit to Jacoby Myers, in my opinion. And they also have Brock Bowers.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
that's
the
not a
Brock
wide receivers
Bowers-
thing. That does their pass catching room
Yes,
is better.
if you take Brock Bowers into that, then yes, the Raiders have them. But as far as wide receivers go, I mean, I guess you can be high on Jacoby Myers. I am not particularly high. The biggest fan of Jacoby Myers. So yeah, the Panthers do have arguably the worst wide receiver room in the NFL.
So I don't know what they're hearing. I don't know if this is a pick that we essentially trade back out of a little bit. But I don't think. I mean, I don't know if you have any guarantee when you trade back if you're going to get a Golden, because it does seem a little high for Golden. But he has been a high riser. A lot of people are really high on him. He dominated down the stretch with Texas. Was their best wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think he has all the traits needed to be a wide receiver one. He's got good speed, great hands. He gets open well, in my opinion. So I honestly love having to take him here. But I feel like I need to, and I don't hate it.
It's not a bad pick. The big thing for Golden is he's got speed, and he can't. I've said it over times. You
Can't
can't
teach
teach speed. Edge defender is a pick I would like for them. Also, I wouldn't hate taking if Will Campbell's sitting there. You take Will
True.
Campbell, and you could play him at guard.
Yeah.
But I don't hate the going away from edge defenders, because with these edge defenders right now, there's a lot of questions with each of them. Mike Green, he hasn't played against a lot of prolific or big schools, so big offensive tackles that are really good. Eziraku, his big question is, can he power against offensive tackles? He's got all the speed moves, and he's got a ton of them in his bag, but he has lacked the ability to show the bull rush potential. Pierce has his questions because he was just not very good last year after a great sophomore year with Tennessee. And then Scorton and Shamar Stewart are probably a little bit too high here. And they've also probably, as an Aggie, you'd probably say they underperformed considering what they were kind of expected to do.
Definitely Nick Scorton. Shamar Stewart as well. I mean, with Stewart, it just comes down to, do you trust the freakish athlete he is? But I agree, in terms of edge, it's Abdul Carter is off the board, and I don't know if anyone else. No one is in his tier, obviously, but I don't even know if anyone else is in like the tier directly below, where it really feels like they're a safe thing.
Yeah, I don't see the Panthers trading out of this pick because they're in these top 10 picks. And if you're most likely, you're probably going to trade out of the top 10, because I don't see the Saints trading with the Panthers.
Yeah,
There's no reason to do it unless they heard that someone was trading up to draft Shador.
that's what I was about to say. That's the only reason I could see someone wanting to trade up to with the Panthers is to get Shador.
Yeah, and I really don't see the Bears moving up from 10, because they're like, man, we get to pick 10. This is a good chance to get somebody. And these first 11 or so picks are going to be guys that are going to be, in my opinion, really good starters in the NFL. So I just don't see him trading. So I don't mind the Matthew Golden pick whatsoever. I disagree. I don't think he's got all of the pieces to be a wide receiver one. He could develop into that maybe, but he doesn't show a great ability to be a jump ball threat, which we see a lot from a lot of great wide receiver ones like A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson. CeeDee Lamb's a good in jump ball. Jamar Chase is excellent in the jump ball. We haven't really seen that a ton from Matthew Golden. He wasn't really the guy that Quinn Ewers looked to for those big throws, but he's fast, and we saw with Xavier Worthy that even these young guys with a lot of speed can be very dynamic playmakers.
Yep.
So he kind of makes sense there. You don't have to start my clock. Saints are on the clock. Who dat?
I'll go ahead and cue up the noise.
Yeah, sure. With the 9th overall pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the New Orleans Saints select Shador Sanders, quarterback, Colorado. I think if Shador's here, he's the pick for the Saints. Now, I would not hate, especially with the players that have became available in this version of the mock draft. Will Campbell's there. Will Johnson is there. And, the fan base doesn't really want to take another offensive tackle, but either of Campbell or Mimbu being there and Will Johnson, I don't dislike either of those picks for the Saints. I think if you really have a lot of questions about Derek Carr and whether he's going to play or not, I think you have to pick Shador because I don't think the only option available could be Spencer Rattler going through the season unless for some reason we're going to land Aaron Rodgers, which I just don't see happening. Then the pick's got to be Shador. But if Derek Carr has a chance to play this season, I would rather us take Will Campbell, Will Johnson, Mimbu, and then wait for next year to draft a quarterback. But given what we've heard now, in my opinion, it's got to be Shador there at 9. So I can go ahead and bring on the Bears.
Yeah. It's been rumored for a little bit now that this kind of is what the Saints are looking at in terms of who to take with their first-round pick. I don't love it. I'm not a huge Shador guy.
You will become one.
Okay. I probably won't. But we'll see, I guess. It makes sense for them, even though I'm not a huge Shador guy.
Especially in light of the Derek Carr injury.
Correct.
It's a big thing for Shador is going to be expectations.
They need to be tempered for his rookie year.
Yes, it's Shador. If you're expecting him to be a good starter,
Don't expect a Jaden Daniels season.
a top 16 quarterback in the league, and you don't expect him to play like C.J. Stroud or Jaden Daniels in year one, then he's going to meet those expectations. This guy is a really, really good pocket passer. He can make all the throws on the field. He can extend plays when he needs to. He's a leader. He's a winner. I mean, he's learned that from Dion, and he's proven that. He's won pretty much everywhere. They took a 1-12 or 1-11 Colorado program and brought them to a bowl game, and then where they were in contention for the college football playoff last year. So I just don't see. Sorry, they didn't make a bowl game the first year, but they were in contention for the college football playoff last year. But if your expectations are for him to be a superstar, for him to be Deion Sanders, slow your roll. You're just not going to get that, especially not early on. So just please, if that's your expectations, he's not going to meet them, and then you're not going to become a Shador guy. But if you expect him to just be a top 16 quarterback, you're going to be a Shador guy, and that's kind of what I'm expecting and hoping for with New Orleans because that's been the problem for since Drew has left. We've just been terrible at quarterback, and we kind of just need some consistency at quarterback. He doesn't have to be a prolific player. When he got it, we have to get over these things like, man, why didn't we, draft Patrick Mahomes because he was there? Like, no one knew he was going to be the greatest
The Chiefs
quarterback
didn't
in the
even know.
world. And then we were pissed because we didn't land Deshaun Watson, but then we've kind of seen how that's turned out. It's let's get some continuity, let's get some consistency at quarterback. Shador's the pick in my eyes. That's more yapping than I wanted to do on that.
You're
No,
good.
you're good.
I figured we'd bend the rules a little bit for your Saints.
Yeah, that's fine.
We can hop into the Bears pick, which is Sanders is the Bears GM.
Yeah, let me start my clock. All right, we get to the Bears. The Bears needs, let me open it back up. According to PF, our running back, defensive line, and safety. In my notes, let me open my notes back up. I have too many things open. In my notes, I have them look at, I wrote down Genty if available, which for those of you who saw our TikTok is pretty funny because we basically said that any team that could draft Genty outside the top 6 would be an instant, run up there and take him. What the Bears have done this offseason around Caleb Williams, I think they've done a good job of surrounding him with talent. They brought in 3 new pieces for the offensive line. Their wide receivers are DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and the former Washington wide receiver, not Jalen Polk.
Roma Dunze.
Thank you. Roma Dunze, Jalen Polk,
My dog.
as of the Buccaneers. Roma Dunze, so there's
Jalen Polk is not with the Buccaneers.
That's
That's
McMillan.
Jalen McMillan.
Thank you.
Polk
Jalen
is
McMillan.
Patriot.
Yes.
McMillan is also former Washington Husky.
Yes,
correct?
all 3 of them are former
Yes,
Washington
cool.
Huskies.
That's the confusion there. If I am the Bears, there is a opportunity here to help out Caleb Williams. And another way, they're on the defense as well as the offense. They have taken great steps to improve that offensive line. They brought in a guy like Joe Tooney, who has been the model of consistency at Kansas City, and before that, New England. He has allowed 2 or less sacks every year over the past 7 years. They also, their running backs last year were not good.
Sure.
Their running backs were
DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, and then they also brought in. Well, they had Roshan Johnson. They brought in Khalil Herbert. Those were their 3 running
Yes,
backs.
it was Roshan Johnson, who rushed for 150 yards on 2.7 yards per carry. DeAndre Swift, who ran for 959 yards on 3.8 yards per carry, with 6 touchdowns and 2 fumbles.
Good stuff.
Who was the other one you said? Khalil Herbert?
It might not have been Herbert.
He was not on the team last year.
Yeah, that was.
I think isn't
they brought in
Khalil
the guy
at-
from Cincinnati.
is Khalil
but-
at the Panthers?
Yeah, I'd argue they had pretty good running back play. I thought Swift ran very well for them. He got a lot of his touchdowns robbed by Roshan Johnson on the goal line.
Correct. They both had 6.
But no, I don't think it was terrible at running back. I don't know where you were going from there. Though.
I was throwing out the possibility of a running back. There's one other running back that people are arguing could be a first-round running back in Omarion Hampton out of UNC. And then the other need would be along the defensive line at edge. The Bears have really struggled. Oh, all right. It's time for me to make my pick. The Bears have struggled along the defensive line since they lost Khalil Mack, traded him away to the Raiders. So, yeah, I'm ready to make my pick. With the 10th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Chicago Bears will be drafting Omarion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina.
You're like the guy in our comments was talking about this.
Yes, we did have someone suggest it. I don't mind it. I think we've seen other running backs taken this high recently, guys. I'm trying to think in the 10 to 15 range. Well, Bijan went at 8 2 years ago. I'm drawing a blank on that. There have definitely been other running backs. You've got guys taken in the later half, like
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
no, not him. The Lions running back, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
He was taken in the early 20s, I believe.
No, he wasn't. He was taken, I believe, at 12.
12.
He helped your case even more.
Yeah, literally. We'll take that.
He was-
Thank you,
yeah,
JP.
I believe it was taken at 12. If not, it was 8.
It was not
it
8.
Was, it was 12.
It was
was
Bijan
12.
was at 8 that year. They were the same draft class. All right.
He's a great runner.
Yeah, people have compared him to Derrick Henry of Alabama, not of right now where he's just a kind of a power guy because of his ability at that size to have explosive speed.
So he gets moving.
And once he gets moving downhill, 1, he's hard to bring down, but 2, he's just going to outrun you. And that was something we saw from Derrick Henry at Alabama. He basically won them a national championship that year, in my opinion. He was the offense because Jay Coker was the quarterback.
Yep.
So
Different Alabama teams, man.
yeah, I don't
different
hate
era.
that pick for the Bears. I would be very surprised if Chicago didn't take someone offensively with this top tier pick. Ben Johnson, Lions. That was big on their MO, was taking these position players.
He took Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 overall.
They took Jahmyr Gibbs at 2 overall. Jamison Williams, Sam Laporta. These were all first-round picks that provided big sparks for the Lions. And Ben Johnson with Chicago. Yeah, they've already got a bunch of weapons, but that was what made the Lions so good. all the injuries defensively hurt them, but they had just an embarrassment of riches offensively. So I would have left, or I would have gone with Tyler Warren. But I don't hate the pick for Amari and Hampton.
Who's the Bears tight end?
I do kind of think that's 3 reaches in a row. It's Cole Kmet. And
He's not bad as far as young tight ends go.
yeah, but it doesn't hurt to have 2 good tight ends
This
in
is
the
fair.
National Football League,
This is fair.
especially for Ben Johnson, who with Detroit they like to lean on the run to open up the pass.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe. I could see it.
That puts my 49ers on the clock. And by mine, I mean I'm GM of the 49ers. If I'm the 49ers, I'm actually ecstatic here
Yeah, this is insane.
because it's an aging roster. They're kind of looking at kind of a changing of the guard type scenario where they need to start bringing in younger guys to replace their older guys at some positions, offensive tackle, some defensive line help, potentially like a cornerback. And they almost get their pick of the litter here. Obviously, like Abdul Carter went, but none of the other edges have gone.
Mm-hmm.
We've not seen a linebacker go yet. Will Campbell's sitting on the board right there at the top. Mimbu's there. Like they have their pick of who they want here, because we've just seen a kind of a run on skill position guys, and that's not necessarily where they need to look this early in the draft. So it just comes down to who they want, honestly. And I'm ready to make my pick. I'm not gonna think too hard about this one. With the 11th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Will Campbell, tackle out of LSU.
Yeah, this is a great spot for the 49ers. Their needs are listed as guard and tackle, and Will Campbell is listed as a tackle. He played tackle at LSU.
If it doesn't work out, you
And
can
if
fly
it
him to
doesn't
guard.
work out, you just move him into guard. And either way, you are helping the team out a lot. It's very interesting how the draft fell for them. I mean,
Thanks to some people here.
yep,
Yeah,
I
I
got
mean-
you. I mean, I'm just helping the boys out. Hey, you're about to benefit from it too, JP. I mean, you about to have the Dallas Cowboys and the Atlanta Falcons back-to-back picks for you.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go even like the 49ers should get a corner here,
Oh,
Dave
yeah.
Barron or Will
Will
Johnson.
Johnson
Like
is-
they have to love the fact that they're both on the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost a thing of like I don't know who to pick because I love multiple options.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be very surprised. If Will Campbell gets to 11, but 2, if Will Johnson is on the board, that the Niners don't take Will Johnson, even with Jahdae Barron, not Jahdae Brown, sitting there as well. But yeah, I mean, they would love if they'd be ecstatic with that pick, allowing themselves to take Will Campbell there. And I think that now leads into the Cowboys, put them on the clock. That they've got to, in my opinion, they've got to be ecstatic that the draft went this way to where they don't have to feel like they have to make a massive decision here. Now, obviously, if Genty was here, it's not necessarily as much of a massive decision, but it is kind of a like, well, I mean, our defense wasn't really great last year. We kind of are. We have all this money in skill position players, and these big names. We kind of need players to play in the trenches. Someone to play at corner. That was kind of a weak spot after it had a really good year 2 years ago. So I think it helps them a lot, and I think it helps them from my owner, Jerry Jones, who's above me right now, making this pick, and not me.
You're the GM. You are Jerry Jones.
So the Cowboys don't have a GM?
No, Jerry Jones
He
is the
is
GM.
their GM.
All right, I'm not.
You're not claiming to be Jerry.
I'm not going
Jones.
to claim to be Jerry Jones. Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to let Jerry Jones make this pick and not me. But I think they would be ecstatic, or I think not ecstatic. They would be happy that they in-house that they don't have to make any big decisions here, and that they can really just take a player that's going to be really, really good for them, hopefully. So for me, given the players that are there, and then you kind of think about the division that they're playing in, you're playing in a division that's got 2 great quarterbacks in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, and then 2 okay quarterbacks in Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels. Kidding, of course, flip those 4 around. If Will Johnson's here on the board, I just don't see how another team could pass up Will Johnson So for me,
Wow, we
after
got
this
an ad,
from
man.
TurboTax,
That really
That's
sucks.
great.
It's a 4-second
Skip.
clip, guys.
that's
Skip it.
crazy. With the 12th overall pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Dallas Cowboys select Will Johnson, cornerback, Michigan.
Good pick. I mean, he was he was top 3 for most people coming into the year, and then I think Michigan had a bit of a slide, and he played hurt a little bit.
He was slated to be the number 2 overall pick in a lot of mocks because at the time the Jaguars were going to be second or first, and then the Patriots were either first or second. So it was slated to be Travis Hunter, Will Johnson. I love Will Johnson as a prospect. If I get to say it on draft night, I'd love to, but otherwise Sanders is probably going to read this again. He's the best cornerback available. He's a guy who he feasts off lazy route running. He knows tendencies so well, and he'll jump routes very, very well. And the big thing that people don't realize and kind of forget is this guy is big. He's 6'2", so big jump ball receivers are not going to scare him. If you go and play college football 25 and you go and play against Michigan, I was literally doing this earlier this week. I was just playing college football, and I ended up playing against Michigan. You don't realize how big this guy is. He's as big as the linebackers were for Michigan last year. So I think he's a really good corner. I would not be upset if he's taken with the Saints. And as a Cowboys fan, because of Dak Prescott, I wouldn't be upset with his pick either.
Yeah. So I guess Will Johnson's your cornerback 1 in this draft.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I'm there with you.
Which is why that mock draft first one is terrible, because the Saints took Barron.
That's tough. It's very tough.
Hurts for you, Sanders. You want to get on the clock for the Dolphins?
Yeah,
Unless you have
I'll
something
go
you
ahead
want to
and
add.
start it. No, I'm good to go. Honestly, I'm not even going to start it. This is going to be pretty quick. The Miami Dolphins had a very good defensive interior player with Christian Wilkins. I think they made a poor decision. Maybe not a poor decision. They might have been forced to because their money was elsewhere, but they let him walk. There's a guy sitting here just like at the perfect spot for them to draft him and kind of try and reinforce that position after letting Wilkins go. So, yeah, I'm ready to go ahead and make my pick. With the 13th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Miami Dolphins will be selecting Walter Nolan, defensive interior from the University of Mississippi. All right, JP, what's your issue here? Let's hear it.
It's pronounced Old Piss. Go ahead, Jack.
My pick?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm not the biggest fan of the Walter Nolan pick either for personal reasons.
It also feels like a 4th reach in a row. I'm not going to lie.
All right.
Maybe a 5th.
5th? Where are we getting 5th from?
Cam Ward.
I tried to trade out of it. I didn't want to take him. And then you wanted to take Jeffrey Simmons, who's one of the best young defensive tackles in the NFL.
Jeffrey Simmons is not young. He's 29.
No, he's not.
He's got to be pretty old.
Jeffrey Simmons, I believe, is 29.
Cannot be young for football
He
terms
left after
anyway.
his junior year, and he's drafted in like 2019.
Yeah, he's 27, as I said.
I still
27
he's
is
wrong.
not
I would not classify it as young either.
4 years left.
That's in his prime.
4 years.
Did not think the guy that I'm probably
JP,
going to
kind of
take
my
here
head explode. That's crazy.
was going to fall to the Colts.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
But he's here.
Yep.
Other needs. I mean, tight end's a need. Interesting what they do with their QB. I don't think they're happy about their QB room currently.
Daniel Jones is going to be the starter.
But there's no one here for them to add that I think they love enough to add in the spot. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Unless I guess they're Jackson Dart lovers.
Milrow.
Tyler
They could
Shaw.
use another cornerback pretty badly. Jade Barron would be an interesting shout here. But I'm going to go ahead and make my pick because this has been mocked a ton. Still once again surprised he fell here. But let's get it over. With the 14th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State.
Cool.
I love Tyler Warren. I was doing some research on his statistics lined up against Brock Bowers. And I'm not comparing Tyler Warren to Brock Bowers because Brock Bowers was dominant for 3 years of college. Tyler Warren took until his at least his fourth year. Was he a fifth year? He's definitely so his fourth year, to really make a name for himself. But statistically, it was a very impressive season that he had last year. And the ways he was able to impact the game outside of lined up as a tight end, I think is going to give him opportunities at the next level to be really good, and especially in a Colts offense that already has Jonathan Taylor and a good offensive line. And then you've got Anthony Richardson potentially at quarterback. If not, it's Daniel Jones. That's questionable. We don't know what's going to happen there. So I do really like Tyler Warren to the Colts. I think everyone does.
Yeah, I don't disagree with it whatsoever. That'll put the Falcons on the clock. Since they're the Falcons, I think we'll go ahead and take KJ Jefferson here out of UCF. No, just joshing.
I don't even think he's in the system.
He is in the system.
Is he actually?
He's in the PFF.
He is. Okay, cool.
I don't know if he's in our system.
He is in the PFF system. He is ranked 337th.
Yeah.
His average draft position is 103rd.
Yeah, that's actually kind of high. They have
very
needs. They have needs a receiver. Although I thought they got great play out of Drake London, especially Darnell Mooney last year. Center, edge defender,
It might be that
and
they're in a,
linebacker.
I'm sorry, this is your pick. I forgot we haven't really been talking each other's picks. You got it.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was gonna say it might be they're viewing it as a Green Bay situation where they view London and Mooney both as wide receiver twos, and so you ideally would rather like to have a wide receiver one. I don't know if they're gonna. Maybe that's why the wide receiver is listed as a need. Is they're saying that neither of those guys is a true wide receiver one. And
Maybe.
so if you want someone,
I thought London's production was.
I like London.
good
I'm
enough
just trying to kind of maybe that's why their wide receivers
to
listed as a
give
need.
him that, and I don't think Michael Penix needs a embarrassment or not an embarrassment, more weapons.
Yeah.
Here, I think in my mock, this is where this guy fell as well. And you look at the Falcons, their offensive line, they got Jake Matthews playing left tackle, and then they got a guy playing right tackle. I forgot his name. Apologies to him, but he's a Falcon, so he's not good. But he's got 1 year left on his deal. So in my opinion, the pick makes a lot of sense if this guy's going to fall here. And that pick would be
Seamless.
with the 15th overall pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0. The Falcons take Armand Minbu, tackle
Great pick.
out of Missouri. I'd really like, I would not hate Jahad Campbell, really any of the edge rushers, or even Jalen Walker this high for the Falcons. But I do think if you're going to say Penix is the guy going forward, you already have one side of your offensive line shored up, at least for tackle. Take this chance to get a guy who's honestly falling down this draft board and shore up another side of the offensive line. Minbu played a ton of left tackle for Missouri. Matthews has been a guy who has played right tackle before, so I don't think it would be too much of a problem for him to move back over to right tackle. I also don't think Minbu would have a problem playing right tackle as well either, especially as a rookie. So Minbu is the pick for me and the Falcons. And that'll put the Cardinals on the clock.
That kind of snaps up the last of the top tier offensive tackles. Stops his slide. Not that it was a big slide, but it was definitely a bit of one.
Definitely. All right, so let me start my clock. Next up is the
Cardinals.
Arizona Cardinals.
Yep.
I mean, so I keep looking. Jahdae Barron is still sitting there. I'm trying to. Why is my computer? There we go. To look at the secondary they had last year and how those guys played. Other than Budda Baker, I don't know that it was elite. We're looking at that right now.
The Cardinals are a team that don't have a lot of talented players.
Correct.
And Budda Baker is realistically one of the only talented players defensively.
And he's aging. He's got to be close to 30.
I do believe he is 30. But yeah, so it would not make a ton of. He's 29. He'll turn 30 this season.
It would make
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like the Cardinals have to go secondary here, and it's either Malachi Starks sitting here ranked ninth to, I guess, take over for Buda Baker because safety especially is one of those positions where 30 is kind of the tipping point as far as aging out goes. Offensive linemen can play older, quarterback can of course play older. I think 30 to 31, 32 is kind of the tipping point for safety.
Yeah, and Malachi Starks is not a guy that just played deep safety a ton. So I think him with a combination of Buda Baker would be very interesting. Buda Baker is a guy who's a hybrid. He plays really all over the field. Malachi Starks last season played half of his snaps as deep safety, but the other half he was in the box like a linebacker or he was playing slot. And so it kind of would be an interesting combination there.
Who was the Clemson guy they brought in? Isaiah Simmons?
Isaiah Simmons. He unfortunately didn't pan out.
It never worked out. It was very unfortunate.
But he's he's not. Malachi Starks was no Isaiah Simmons. Isaiah Simmons I thought was going to be a star because of his ability to play at multiple positions.
Is he still in the league?
At a very high level. He is. He's a middle linebacker.
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember what team he's with.
It's really unfortunate because he was very good at Clemson.
Oh, absolutely. He was a star as a Tiger fan.
I think the multiple position thing can come back to bite you sometimes in terms of trying to get settled into the league, and your DC and stuff has to know how to use you and stuff like that.
Yep. I do think that he suffered from that. So, yeah. After that, I think I'm ready to make my pick.
I will cue up the music.
Yeah, so with the 16th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Arizona Cardinals will be selecting Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia.
I like the pick.
Way to end the streak of reaches, right?
That was a really good pick, Sanders.
Appreciate it.
Huge.
Let's go. That's my second JP fist bump ever.
You get
podcast.
I was gonna say you get a couple a week these days.
Do I? For what?
Basketball.
Oh, true.
That's true.
After my 0 points, 4 turnover outings that I keep.
Hey, everyone on the team gets a fist bump.
All slugs gets fist bumps in my eyes.
True.
All right, that puts me on the clock as the Bengals GM at pick 17.
And Luther Burden is just sitting there staring you in the face.
That's about the one thing the Bengals don't need is more skill position guys. They could use O-line help. They could use help all over the defense.
Yep. All over the defense. There's not a single position on defense that they don't need somebody. That's crazy.
Yeah, which is what makes me kind of think they would almost go best available on defense here.
100%.
Which, looking at the PFF big board, is Jahdae Barron.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if that's where I want to go with this as the stand-in for the GM.
All right.
I think I'd like to go more of like an edge linebacker situation here, get some more front seven help. And so the guys I'm kind of looking at is like maybe a Jalen Walker, who's a bit of a hybrid in the front seven. Can play at linebacker, can play off the edge. We've seen Georgia Bulldogs have great success in the league, especially from the front seven. It almost seems like a guaranteed success these days if you make that pick. So I'm going to go and lock in my pick here.
All right.
With the 17th pick?
Yes.
Of the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jalen Walker, edge linebacker out of Georgia.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, I don't dislike the pick whatsoever. You make a great point. People might say, well, why would you take Jahad Campbell? He's kind of better than him. Jahad Campbell played most of his snaps in the box as a linebacker. Jalen Walker split most of his snaps as an edge rusher or a linebacker. And if the Bengals are going to let Trey Hendrickson walk,
correct,
they need someone who can kind of play both for them, and Jalen Walker can do that. He can also just play edge rusher for them as well. So I don't hate that pick whatsoever. That'll put the Seahawks on the clock. I was very excited to make this pick because I listened to a radio show out of Seattle that covered the Seahawks every once in a while. That specifically has Brock Heward on the show, which is one of the Fox college football color commentators. Yeah, this is a pick they've theorized a ton about. They were theorizing if they would pick Shedeur Sanders here. But it feels like the feeling in-house is this has got to be an offensive lineman of some kind or an edge rusher. And when they've gotten this far and there's no edge rushers really been taken off the board besides Abdul Carter, and all the offensive linemen that are good of note are kind of gone. So you kind of get your pick there. For the Seahawks, in my opinion, I'm going to go with the third lowest rated of these three edge rushers, in my
Okay.
opinion. I think he's got the most proven talent. Mike Green's got a ton of questions. Ezeraku is a guy who's big on speed, but he isn't really someone who can power rush and bull rush. And he's going to go into a division that has Trent Williams, that has Paris Johnson with Arizona, and then the Rams have bolstered up their offensive line a little bit in the years past Andrew Whitworth. So I just don't see him as a good fit in that division, which for a lot of these teams, that it's a big thing you have to consider with these kind of picks. So I'm going to go with the third guy. With the 18th overall pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Seattle Seahawks select James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Sure, a little bit of SEC bias there. I've seen this guy play in person. I went to the Tennessee-Mississippi State game last year. He is every part of his 6'5" frame, 6'5", 243, and he had an excellent sophomore season, but was underwhelming last year as a junior. But he's for edge rusher. Part of the battle is you're looking for a guy that's going to be physically intimidating, and then you're looking for a guy that can produce, especially against elite competition, and he has done that in at least one season with Tennessee. So I think he's the best out of these three guys in terms of Mike Green and Ezeraku. So I got James Pierce.
Yeah, I was about to pick him for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so this late teens is a great spot for him.
Yeah, we may see a run on edge.
Little
here.
earlier, yeah, I might lean edge. A little earlier might honestly even work for James Pierce. One of the notes I have is, so in his sophomore season, you talked about he had 13 sacks in 13 games. In 2024, his junior year, he had only 8 sacks. But I think one of the things that if you just look at like the highlights, it doesn't show up. He actually increased his hurry totals from 28 to 43. So he was getting a little lucky on his rushes. Not lucky, but one of the things that if you look at, you don't want to just look at sack totals because the sacks can be lucky. And so, I mean, he almost doubled. Not doubled. 28 to 43 is almost double, but it's a large increase in his hurry numbers. So he was affecting the quarterback more in his junior year. And then also he started affecting other areas of the game, like run defense. He did almost double his tackles. He jumped from 13 tackles in 23 to 25 in 24. So James Pierce is a great pick. Like I said, I was literally about to take him. I had him queued up. I was about to talk about him and explain the pick and everything. So, yeah, thanks for that, JP.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, man.
Yeah, I like the pick. I mean, I feel like you can't. It's kind of. I don't know who I'd take out of these edge rushers, to be honest. I'm interested to see what order they go in the draft, like what the GMs of the teams think about them and how they have them ranked, I guess. But we can move on to the Buccaneers pick.
Yep.
Sanders, what do you got?
Yeah, so Buccaneers,
His guy's gone. He's
all right.
defeated.
Okay, hold up. I'm having to do research and talk at the same. I'm scared for the draft night because I'm gonna have to be doing this for an hour because
You're gonna have more time though.
You
this
won't be
is
for a
true.
full hour. We'll get Jack here.
All right.
We'll get one of us here for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the team got better.
Yeah, they did. They definitely.
They added that
got
one.
better.
The guy with the light blue shirt was kind of hooping over there.
All right.
We got better though.
I don't even know who we're playing.
We're at an hour 9 right now, so just to.
Yeah.
20
We're definitely gonna
minutes.
have to clip this. I think
Hey, yo, chat. Clip that.
we might be able to get through it if I go fast, but I don't think I can go fast. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers need help on defense. On offense, they've got Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They've got a good offensive line. They've got at running back is Bucky Irving and the Vanderbilt guy. Or is Bucky Irving the Vanderbilt guy? He's not the Vanderbilt guy.
Bucky Irving's the Oregon guy.
They have the Vanderbilt. Who was he?
Rashad White was their other running back. They also have Sean Tucker, Twitter legend.
Twitter
Syracuse,
legend God
right?
Tucker.
Sean Tucker.
Not happy with my performance today, but thanks to the fans and shout out God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, on offense, they're good. On defense, I was about to pick James Pierce Jr.
I forgot he won. I forgot he won that fantasy matchup against you by
Indeed
dropping
he did.
34.
That's crazy.
What a pickup from me. Sorry.
There, Jahdae Barron is sitting there, ranked 7th on the board. And then, I mean, the three needs that PFS has listed are edge, linebacker, and defensive back. And then you've got Jahdae Barron, Jahad Campbell, and Mike Green at defensive back, linebacker, and edge rusher. Yeah, I know where I'm going.
Okay. Let me cue up the sound.
With the 19th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Donovan Ezeraku, edge rusher out of Boston College. The reason I'm going Ezeraku, I've been editing tape and film for our NFL Draft live stream, so we're trying to have B-roll prepared, and I got to watch Ezeraku play. It's like a 5-minute video. I had to trim it down to 2.5 minutes, and the dude is, he is very good at getting to the quarterback and impacting plays in the backfield, multiple forced fumbles, I believe. So, yeah, watching his tape, he's actually one of the few guys. I've only got to watch 8 guys. I've edited 8 guys' film so far. He's one of them, and he was fun to watch for sure. So that's going to give me also I'm going to go with competition level. The ACC, you can argue about where it falls in football conferences. I'm going to give them the edge over Marshall. I don't know what conference Marshall, are they in the MAC?
AAC?
AAC?
Yeah, they're not in Division 1.
Marshall? Yes, they are.
They're Division 1.
Sorry. Yeah.
Are they
They're
MAC?
Not
Or they
in the MAC.
I thought they're AAC, but I could be wrong.
I'm not positive.
They are not.
No, they're in the Sun Belt.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
not the
They're in
same.
the Fun Belt.
They are not in a P4 conference.
Correct.
So that's going to lead me
P2.
to take, Donovan Ezeraku,
Yeah.
edge
you're
out of
wrong.
Boston College.
Cool. That puts me and the Broncos on the clock at 20. Gonna go and get this out of the way. It's
Make
kind
that pick, man.
kind of a joke. I don't. I'm just gonna here. I'm gonna make my take. I don't think Hampton gets past this pick.
Yeah.
I think if Hampton's on the board here, that they don't let him fall any further. Not even really necessarily a fall because he's a running back.
Yeah.
But definitely a position that they could use reinforcements at. It's not really a great room. So, and I think they'd like that pairing with Bo Nix. Other needs: defensive line. Could use some help. Center, wide receiver. I don't really see them going wide receiver here, though.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think I'm going to continue the run of edge rushers.
All right.
Question is, which one do I want? Which one will I take?
How many? Who are the?
There's one.
There's Scorton, Shamar Stewart, and then Mike Green. Unless you're about to reach deep into your bag and go like Mikael Williams from Georgia.
Mikael Williams got talent. We saw it pop this season.
Yeah.
But I'll go ahead and make my pick. I'll stop waffling.
Engagement farming. That's crazy.
With the 20th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Denver Broncos select Mike Green, edge out of Marshall.
Good pick.
All right, that'll put the Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock out of the AFC North, division that has the Bengals, the Ravens, Browns. Great analysis, right? No, they
get
obviously
that anywhere
they're in a
else.
spot where they think they need or want Shador Sanders. Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed yet, and he likely won't until the day of the draft, the day before the draft, or he won't sign at all. I don't think unless they don't take a quarterback, I don't see a world where he doesn't, or where he signs with them post-draft and they took a quarterback. I made a TikTok that they were going to take Jalen Milroe here, but I kind of expected that another guy was going to be off the board at that point. I'm not going to pick that guy as the GM for the Steelers, who's also happens to be a Mississippi State fan. So you kind of
I love that you can maintain your professionalism and unbiasedn's.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Luther Burden's here. They don't need him. I think Mike Tomlin's going to be here, and they've had prolific defenses for many, many years. And there's a playmaker here that can play very good snaps for them. He feels like he fits the Steelers' way. And while he doesn't fit a great need, he's a guy who slipped down the board, in my opinion. And, I just don't see, if this guy was here, why wouldn't Mike Tomlin take him? So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and select. With the 21st pick in the Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. Jahad had a pretty good season for Alabama this past season. One of the highest on the team in tackles with 89. He's a pure linebacker. He plays most of his snaps out of the box. Very rarely does he play on the defensive line. But this is a guy who is ranked 11th with PFF. A lot of mocks and mock draft people are going to have this guy in the top 15. And the Steelers, I think, are in a spot where the needs that they have aren't going to be met with the players available on the board right now. So take the best available, and in my opinion, that's Jahad Campbell.
Yeah, if he falls as far, it's a good pick. He's a good cover linebacker. Can get kind of sideline to sideline. And, I mean, I agree with the whole fits the DNA of Steelers teams.
And you're playing in a division where you're going to face the Bengals that are going to be versatile with their passing game, and the Ravens that are going to be prolific on the ground. I think Jahad Campbell is a guy who could defend both of those very well.
He filled gaps well on the line in the run game. Even if he's not, he doesn't necessarily play on the line, but he plugs the holes well. Sanders.
Jimmy Neutron.
Can't believe you're calling me Saunders. I haven't even done anything. Next up on the clock is the Los Angeles Chargers. So looking at their needs along the defense and then in the wide receiver room, and tight end as well, but I'm going wide receiver or defense here. Specifically defensive line. They've got Khalil Mack. They lost Poona Ford, I believe, who was their second best defensive lineman last year.
Yeah.
Wide receiver room is they have Ladd McConkey, who was, I think he led all rookies last year in receiving yards or touchdowns. He was up there in one of those two categories.
He was up there. I don't know if it was him or Brian Thomas.
I believe it was.
But
it was one of the two. I can't remember which. I think it was McConkey.
Great rookie season from Ladd regardless.
Very good rookie season as a second round pick, I think. So a little unexpected. So I think that the Chargers. Oh yeah, the Stars. I mean they just clicked. I don't even know. Yep, we're ready to go.
Okay,
we'll give the explanation after.
Sounds good.
I mean I'm having to make my mind up. With the 22nd pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Los Angeles Chargers are going to select Kenneth Grant, defensive interior out of Michigan. So,
what was the making your mind up about?
Well, at first I was like, well, the Chargers need defensive line, so they're just going to go Kenneth Grant. And then I was like, well, it's perfect. It's a Harbaugh guy. It fits a need. And I look 4 spots down the board, and I see Colston Loveland sitting there, another Harbaugh guy at another position of need. And I was like, oh, crap. Now I mean, it's just like flipping a coin. But yeah. I decided to go at the edge need, or not the edge need, the defensive need, defensive line. Could be more impactful than tight end. I have heard people, there are a lot of people that are pretty high on Colston Loveland.
He's a good tight end for sure.
Or at least people who are lower on Tyler Warren, which narrows the gap. I think there's a pretty large gap. So, yeah, I think that Kenneth Grant is a good fit there for the Michigan Wolverines.
Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, Michigan Wolverines for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, I don't hate that pick whatsoever.
Let's go. That's 2 non-reaches in a row.
Yeah, I prefer that to the
Yeah,
Colson Loveland pick.
Chargers are
um,
gonna have to select. They may need to trade back in and somehow get Ibuka.
Yeah.
This is a team that needs weapons.
I mean, there are other wide receivers out there.
Um,
There's 2 Iowa State guys
Yeah,
that are pretty good.
They're gonna have to go wide receiver pretty quickly in this draft, though.
they're gonna need
Can't keep wasting Justin Herbert.
someone
Correct,
to throw
correct.
to. I mean, if Quentin Johnson, Lad McConkey, a rookie, is their leading receiver last year, and that's a slot guy.
Yeah.
And then if Quentin Johnson doesn't have a kind of late resurgence, Lad McConkey's really the only option.
Is Johnson going into his 4th year?
Johnson will go into his 3rd year.
Okay.
With the team, that was his sophomore year last year. Yeah, Luther Burden was there. I would be curious if they would take him over
Yeah.
Kenneth Grant. I know Harbaugh wants to fit, his play style, and Kenneth Grant will fit that obviously, because he recruited him and he won a national championship with him. But yeah, they are gonna need to get weapons. They're gonna need to be able to score some points. I think they're gonna play in a division that's going to be capable of doing that. When the Chiefs get healthy again, they're going to have Rashid Rice and Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce, and I think they're going to take a weapon of some kind with their first-round pick as well again. If not, they'll take him in the second round. And then the Raiders, I think, are going to be a lot better offensively with Geno Smith compared to Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. And then the Broncos, I mean, they showed they can score a ton of points last year, even with Bo Nix and a bunch of nobodies for the most part, Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton. So this is a team that's either going to have to, slow teams down, or they're going to have to start scoring points.
Yeah.
But I don't just disagree with that pick.
That puts the Packers on the clock at pick 23, and this probably will be the easiest pick I make all night.
Yeah, a little bit.
In no way does this person end up here on draft night.
I would be careful with absolutes when it comes to the NFL draft. Someone commented on one of our TikToks that we were insane for having, I forget which quarterback it was, go as high as he did. Maybe it was Milrow or something.
Will Howard.
Maybe it was Will Howard, and I just responded. I was like, "So where did you have Michael Penix going?"
Mhm.
Don't care. I still see almost no way. No. I see no way that this guy is here at pick 23. But the Packers would be very happy if he ended up here. So I'm going to go and make my pick. With the 23rd pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Green Bay Packers select Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. They could use cornerback help. This is easily the best player available. PFF has him ranked 7th. I don't know if I have him quite that high, but regardless, pick 23. Second best corner or best corner, depending on who you ask in this draft. So
It's second behind Travis Hunter.
true.
No one's-
Travis Hunter is like an anomaly in
yes,
my
yes.
head.
That's fair.
So I just always forget him in positional rankings.
That's fair.
But second or third, I guess, then depending on who you ask. Played very well at Texas. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the Packers secondary has declined the past couple years.
Yeah, which I don't really get. I mean, 2-3 years ago, Jair Alexander was the best or one of the best young cornerbacks in the league, and now they're talking about releasing him, moving on from him. 3 years ago, AJ Terrell, or 2-3 years ago, AJ Terrell was he was coming off like he had the best season among cornerbacks in the NFL. Now he's not as great. It's wild how quickly the landscape of player rankings and stuff like that in the NFL can change, how quickly you can go from the best to just not good. And
Yeah.
it's not even an age thing. It's just, I mean, and so what Patrick Surtain was cornerback 1 last year, probably. I'll
Yeah.
be interested to see if he regresses at all next year.
I just feel like cornerbacks don't have very high peaks somehow, some way. Like even long peak.
Thank you. I was about to say, I
Sorry,
disagree.
I said the wrong word. Even like a Jalen Ramsey,
Yeah.
fall from grace seemed pretty
Oh, yeah.
pretty harsh.
I mean,
Um,
there was that year. It was him at Jacksonville, and then the guy across from him, an older guy, and I don't remember. It was the year they went to the AFC. AJ Boye, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone was like, "Wow, the Jaguars have the best young defense in the NFL," and the next year they were bad.
yeah,
It's just
Oh, Blake Bortles was the quarterback, guys. Come on. Now.
this
Yeah,
is true. This is
you
true.
make a
But
good
I did
point.
say best young defense, not best young team. So
but we can go and put the Vikings on the clock
Oh,
if you're good with that,
yes.
JP and Sanders.
do
Yeah.
we want to consider stopping and going?
What
Yeah,
time we're
Let's
at?
stop right now
Let's
because
do
I'm
it.
about to blow your mind.
All right. Go.
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna offer a trade.
Oh, to one of your own teams or to one of us?
I'm considering to one of my own teams here.
Wow.
I'm going.
I didn't even think about
to
that.
Offer.
Thought about it.
I could have had my Commanders be picking up pick number 2, man. They could have had Abdul Carter on their team.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna offer a trade to the Baltimore Ravens here.
And that is that you? I don't
Yes,
know.
that is
that's
him at
also
27.
My team as well. I'm a Baltimore Ravens guy, and I am going to let's make an offer here. I'm gonna give obviously the 24th pick to the Ravens. Ravens give the 27th pick to the Vikings, and then the Ravens trade their third round pick as well as a second round pick in next year's draft for the 24th pick,
Is that 91? That's their third round pick?
91, and then a 6th round pick in 2026. I'll offer the trade, see if PFF selects. Trade not accepted.
Yeah. I don't know
Crazy.
on whose end. Probably the Ravens.
No, probably the Vikings.
That's not enough, you don't think?
No.
Oh, the Ravens.
Yeah, I was about to
that
say it's
pick.
definitely on the Ravens because you're only dropping 3 spots there. You're definitely offering too much.
Not offering enough. Okay. All right, they're stingy. They won't even take a second round pick. All right, the Ravens don't want to trade up to the Vikings pick here.
Let's just do it. and
But
just-
yeah, I'm
just
gonna
do it. I'm gonna
force.
force it.
I'll force this trade. Let's say
24
somehow,
for 27.
the 24th to the 27th. The Ravens trade up to the 24th pick, and I
Hold on.
do-
I wanna
Yeah,
see
sure.
if I can guess. Give me like 5 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead. Who do you
5,
think
4,
I'm-
3, 2, 1. Come on.
I got nothing.
It's about to blow our mind, so hopefully you would have nothing.
The Ravens trade up to the 24th pick with the Vikings and select. The Minnesota Vikings have elected to trade their pick to the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens select with the 24th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft. Emeka Ibuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State.
I was thinking wide receiver. I was thinking LB3.
I was thinking LB3 as well, but for a bit, in my opinion, it's going to be a height thing here. Ibuka makes a little bit more sense for the Ravens, given that you already have Zay Flowers,
Mm-hmm.
who's a tiny, speedy receiver. Emeka Ibuka makes a ton of sense here. For years, it's kind of been a failure of the Ravens to provide adequate weapons for Lamar Jackson, and he just had another outstanding year, a year where they would argue he should have won MVP. He had better numbers than he had the year prior when he won MVP, and this is with Mark Andrews had a down year for his standards. They didn't really get they had Derrick Henry, which helped a ton with their offense, but Zay Flowers had a down sophomore year, and there wasn't really a second option. Rashad Bateman was the second option, but
Had a rough year as well.
had a rough year as well. And then you get there into the game with Buffalo, and you're right there in that game, and then the Ravens just couldn't convert and score points when they needed to in that game. I don't think it wasn't a game, in my opinion, that the Bills won because Josh Allen was insane. I thought it was a game that the Ravens could have won, and they definitely think they should have won. And then you even go back to the AFC Championship 2 years ago. You are Lamar Jackson's MVP season. You're prolific offensively. and then you put up a clunker against Kansas City, only scoring 14 points in the AFC Championship in your own building to go to the Super Bowl. I see a trade up. I don't think they'll have to trade up. Mekabuka might fall to them, but I'm gonna have them trading up and taking Ibuka. Ibuka is a guy that's kind of flown under the radar at Ohio State because he's been sandwiched in between prolific receivers with them, Marvin Harrison, and then this year with Jeremiah Smith. He's just always kind of had to bend the wide receiver 2 for Ohio State. And the big thing with Ohio State receivers is they just have a really high success rate. Think of all there's so many of them. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison,
Jackson Smith,
Jackson Smith, and Jigba. They've just
Scary
Michael
Terry.
Thomas,
Scary Terry.
McLaurin.
Yeah, they are a wide receiver. They're wide receiver U, in my opinion.
Them and LSU are right
It's-
there.
Yeah.
It's the Minnows.
LSU has the
Not a
the,
crazy
the
claim.
top end, but like in terms of just everyone
Depth,
can see
yeah.
consistently hit for Ohio State. Ibuka makes a ton of sense here for the Ravens.
I like it. I don't necessarily think the trade up is necessary, but to spice it up, sure.
I mean, when you can trade up 24 to 27
That's
without
true,
giving
actually.
anything
That's
up,
a-
you gotta
that's-
do
yeah.
it.
That's a great trade up for the Ravens. I take that back.
I agree.
Jack, you want to take the wait? No, it's
I was
me.
gonna say it's you with the Texans,
My bad.
coach.
My bad. Well, this is actually huge. I'm not going to start the timer. You got the Texans who just lost.
A massive player.
Yeah, massive player. I mean, a game changer in Stephon Diggs. They also did lose. Was it Brandon Cooks? We talked about this last year, and I couldn't forget.
They didn't lose Brandon Cooks. No,
Who was
Brandon
wide
Cooks.
receiver 3?
Tank Dell won't.
Tank Dell's
Thank you.
knee is
Torn
just
ACL.
cooked.
Yes.
Torn
he broke his
everything.
leg.
Yeah.
So they went into the season, started last season with Tank Dell and Brandon Cooks, and
Nico Collins
Jeez.
and Stephon Diggs.
thank you, Nico Collins.
Which
and
Nico Collins
Stephon
is
Diggs.
a dog. and they
Nico
still have
Collins
him.
is
Dalton
back.
Schultz.
And Dalton Schultz, but they're losing
John
2
Mechie.
of their 3. I like John Mechie, but I love his story. He has, I don't know about the on the field performance that hasn't been there as he's recovering from cancer, but I'm gonna go ahead and run to the podium and take wide receiver. With the 25th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Houston Texans select Luther Burden III, wide receiver out of Missouri.
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like this is a guy who had the peak sophomore year. You're kind of taking it based on that. You're hoping that the junior year slump was a fluke or not his fault. So yeah, I think that the Houston Texans would be very happy to kind of restock the wide receiver room after an injury and free agency takes away 2 of their 3 starters. Because Dalton Schultz and Nico Collins cannot do it by themselves, and C.J. Stroud has proven that he can be an elite quarterback. And so giving him the weapons to reach that ceiling is, I think, going to be very beneficial for the Texans.
Sure. I could 100% see tackle there just because
Yes.
their O-line was pretty
Yes,
abysmal last
and they
year.
did just trade
Larry Tunsil.
Larry Tunsil to the – who they trade him to?
The
Jets? No one move until we think of this.
Do, 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 do. Ba, ba, bum.
he's a Washington Commander.
Yep.
Jack, come on.
I kind of wanted to say that, but I was like, dang it, is that wrong?
Jack,
That's on me. That's as a Commander
you
fan.
got to be there for that one. That was a layup for you.
Well, I was just scared. I was gonna get it wrong.
Bang!
I should have I should have.
I knew it was a Northeast team.
I should have full sent. Huge pickup for the Commanders. Hopefully.
We'll see.
Hopefully, Tunsil kind of refines that top form. In my opinion, it's hard to be a good offensive lineman on a terrible offensive line.
Oh, 100%.
So
100%.
that puts me on the clock at pick 26 with the Rams. I will be being the Rams GM for the night. In real life, the Rams GM loves to stockpile picks. He's a big fan of trading back. I wonder if that's something they'd look to do here. JP's shaking his head no.
See,
We will
when
have
I
to
think
see.
Rams GM, I think trading away picks because they trade away all their. Is this their first round pick or was last year their
It's
first?
been a minute since they've had a first.
Last year,
They
last
still like
year
they
was
still
their
like
first one in like 5 or 6.
and they
or-
selected the Rookie of the Year.
True. I'm not dogging. I'm just
Yeah.
saying like
They've drafted well.
Yeah.
But you are right that I mean, even through trades and stuff, they don't necessarily have a lot of picks. But since they don't typically have a ton of picks, they have been known to drop back. I'm not going to do that because I don't think either y'all are going to trade with me. I don't know what this Brody to the right of me is doing.
he owns
Batty to
something.
batty, man.
That yeah.
Are you watching it?
He's
No,
not
I'm
watching
not
the
watching
video.
Okay.
Needs here. They need a tackle. They could use some secondary help. A linebacker. Tight end is an option, but I don't really see them doing that here. I got my pick locked in.
All right.
I'll run the sound.
It's so clutch that thing's on Bluetooth now.
With the 26th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Josh Simmons, tackle out of Ohio State. Good player, crucial position, and so I think they. I don't know what I was gonna say. I mean, they like him, and he's here on the board. So
It'll be interesting. He's a guy that could fall more. He's coming off a torn ACL.
this is true.
He tore it 5 games into last season, so he would be questionable to be available week 1 of the NFL season. That's for sure. Unless unless he can recover by fall camp. But no, I don't hate it for the Rams. I would kind of be surprised if we're gonna bring back Matthew Stafford. Why don't we go all in on him and take a guy like Colston Loveland?
Yeah.
Especially when you just lost in my opinion, Stafford's favorite weapon in Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. I'm not sold personally on Colson Loveland as a
Sure.
first round
And
talent.
You're the GM, not me. so
Correct.
That's the argument there. That'll put the Vikings back on the clock after trading with Baltimore. And I'm gonna shock the world, and I'm not gonna trade again.
That would be crazy.
Just keep trading the back.
Just keep
Trade
getting,
him out of the
keep
first
taking
round
The picks. Keep getting
to bring
picks.
the Saints.
That's
back
the
in.
problem. Is you can't trade out of the first round. When I was looking to trade as the Rams GM, I was like, I don't see anyone in the first round trying to make this hop.
I'm going to sit here for a while because I don't. There's just a spot where I don't know if the Vikings have a prolific need that can be answered right here. Kenneth Grant didn't fall to him. The corners didn't fall to him, although they wouldn't be expected to do so. Omarion Hampton isn't sitting here when you're coming off a season where, your running back play wasn't great. Aaron Jones was good, but he was hurt in a lot of key spots throughout the season. And then you have a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. So I'm gonna let's see. I got my pick. I'll make it. With the 27th pick and the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Minnesota Vikings select Trey Amos, cornerback, Mississippi.
Hurt you to make that pick, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a guy who plays for a really bad college. And he's not good at football. Let's just be real here. No, I'll be a little bit more professional. He's all right. I mean, I don't think he's a first-round guy, but I do kind of feel like that the Vikings are in a spot where they can't really there's no reason to trade out of the first round because you'd love to take one of these guys that are in the top 25-ish because a lot of them are going to be really good starters or at least be consistent starters in the NFL. And once you get past that, you're in the territory of guys that have a lot of questions. Hot take, I know, right? First-round guys are better than second-round guys. But it's also is like, man, I wish we could have probably picked a little bit higher, especially when we're going to go into a season with a rookie quarterback. The Vikings, I think their best-case scenario is that somebody falls. Like, I wrote it down. Kenneth Grant's their best-case scenario. If he falls all the way here, man, you feel good.
Yeah.
But this is a draft that by the time we get there and it's about 11 o'clock local time here in Mississippi, the Vikings
And
could
we're
be,
still live streaming.
and we're obviously still live streaming, and the vibes are high. because the Saints took Shador.
What are we gonna? We'll talk about plans to keep the vibes high. It's gonna be an electric night. Continue.
The vibes are going to be high.
I was gonna say, I don't know if we
We're going
need
to be
help.
cooking just
Yeah.
like that. Back and forth.
I got to watch the draft,
Um,
so vibes are high regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
So Trey Amos is the pick here, although it's a reach.
It's a position of need, and it's not a deep corner class, really.
No, not
So,
at all.
I
Can't really
think,
take a risk on missing out on one of the better guys.
I think that mid-20s is that second cutoff. So I said the first cutoff was at 4. So, well, not 4, 3. It's Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and Mason Graham. Yeah, that's what I said earlier, right? Was like the cutoff between 4 and
Yeah, I'm tracking.
yeah. So I think that the mid-20s is the next cutoff because we just saw the run on edge defenders. We just saw the last of like Jade Barron out of the 2. Him and Will Johnson are defensive backs 1 and 2. Saw the wide receivers Egbuka, Burden, and McMillan are all gone now. Like the true like offensive line you feel good about being first rounders are gone. So I think mid-20s is that second cutoff of these guys are all from here on out are all fringe first rounders. And you don't really like taking a fringe first rounder at 27, but
You got to do what you got to do.
exactly. I mean if he's what's available, he's what's available. So
And that puts you on the clock with the Lions, Sanders.
oh. Bet. All right, bet. Wide receiver is listed as a need, which I don't really get. I'm going to go start the timer real quick. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams at wide receiver, so I'm going to have to disagree with that.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
All right.
I do think it's a spot. I don't think drafting the first round is where they would do it. I think it would be later. For them, it was a lot of health issues. Jamison Williams was hurt a few times last year. The amount of volume that Amon-Ra St. Brown got, you could start to question the wear and tear could eat at his body eventually.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be such a prolific offense, even with losing Ben Johnson, for them, it really became a weird question mark for them who was going to be the third best pass catcher. Because Sam Laporta, after how good he was, his rookie season wasn't excellent, and his sophomore season from a production standpoint. And their third receiver, they signed Tim Patrick middle of the year, and he was kind of the third receiver, and he had to catch a few touchdowns. They had Josh Reynolds.
Aggie legend Josh Reynolds.
So I don't think they'll select a receiver at the first round pick, unless for some reason maybe
Yeah,
Luther Burden or
especially-
someone's here.
Yeah, because the next guy right now is Alec Imanor. So
Yeah, but
Should have transferred to
I've
state,
kind of
man.
disagree. I think they need to draft a receiver at some point, because they didn't address wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
In free agency, and if they're going to be so good offensively, that's got to be something you address.
yeah, I'm gonna go defensive line here. I think, just because that's where they saw so many of their injuries. Well, they saw injuries all along the defense and the linebacker core. But I mean, the big one that hurt them was Aiden Hutchinson at edge. So I think just giving them a little bit more depth. They've done a good job. They've got David Montgomery and Jameer Gibbs at running back. They've got Jared Goff at quarterback. I think they've done a good job of building depth elsewhere. And that's what allowed them to succeed last year, even with injuries to guys like Jamison Williams. So I think defense is going to be the move here. The issue is finding the right guy. Man, I would just, like I said, the drop-off just happened, and now it's,
Yeah, it sucks for these teams,
yeah, because, I mean,
but it's kind of how it should work.
It
They
is,
were-
it is.
They were good last year. They shouldn't get the cream of the crop.
correct.
You ready?
No.
All right.
Oh, I
You're
never started
good,
the
you're
timer,
good.
so I'm about to go because it's probably close to being up. Ideally, something. Wow, I didn't realize we had 3 edges back to back to back earlier.
I'm
in the
saying
draft.
right on edge rushers.
Yeah. Ideally, the edge rush run happens later, and maybe another team likes Colston Loveland, or they need offensive tackle and they go Gray Zabel, and that pushes the run down, and the
Yeah.
Lions can benefit from that.
And there were a lot of reaches early on in this draft.
You tell him, JP.
Yeah, certain GMs of certain teams.
But I do think I out of the edge rushers, the only guy that's I think going to get here is Ezra Raku,
Correct.
potentially. So
Yep. All right. I mean, at this point, I'm just gonna flip the coin between Shamar Stewart. All right, Jack, give me your 15-second breakdown of Scourton versus Stewart.
I refuse because I picked next and I know who I want.
Freak.
So
Oh, and you also need edge.
yeah,
All right.
Well executed.
All right. I'm gonna make a read. I'm gonna look in your eyes and tell you who you want,
yeah.
and then I'm gonna pick them.
I mean,
I'm ready. I'm locked
Yeah.
in. With the 28th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Detroit Lions select Nick Scourton.
Wow.
A&M.
Nick Scorton.
Scorton. Sorry.
But I can give you the spiel on this guy now
Yeah.
if you want.
Give us. Was he the one you wanted?
He was not the one I wanted.
Okay.
I agree.
Was great at Purdue before last season. Coming to A&M, was crazy productive, double-digit sacks. I believe at Purdue.
Yeah.
And then bulked up a little bit when he got to A&M.
Yep.
Tried to become more of a power guy,
Mhm.
and it didn't work from a production standpoint. Very much looks the part though. I mean, he's intimidating. Talking about what you talked about earlier, especially when he bulked up. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
he
he
was
was- he
scary.
was
He had the
200
nose ring in.
Yeah,
Like
he was 280 pounds when he got to A&M. At Purdue, he was like 250.
he's dropped back.
Yeah, at the combine, I believe he weighed at 253 pounds. So this guy has gotten back to his Purdue form where he's more productive.
Yeah, and I think that's the pitch he's given people is like, I tried this, it didn't work. I'm back. I'm at the playing weight that's best for me, and I'm ready to make plays. We just didn't really see it with him at A&M last year. Once again, but it was just honestly a different player in that sense. That puts me on the clock. I don't hate the pick. I actually kind of
Is it Scorton? Is that what you
is Scorton.
Nick Scorton.
Once again, I would have taken the other one because I actually think the other one is in a tier with the other guys. Looking at some draft boards and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree.
Not from a production standpoint, which is why I think he's still on the board here.
Yeah.
But he graded out raw athlete score. He was the best defensive lineman ever, or defensive end ever.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Better than
Perfect.
Trayvon Walker?
He was a perfect score. Yeah.
How did... I feel like everyone was talking about Trayvon Walker when Walker was coming out.
I mean, everyone was talking about Shamar Stewart when Shamar Stewart was at the combine.
Maybe I just
Um,
wasn't on Twitter enough that day because I missed that. I'm not going to
Mhm.
lie. I missed that entirely.
So that puts the Commanders on the clock. My Commanders needs some defensive needs. Not the best defense. You could use some secondary help. Traded for Lattimore last season, and that didn't really go as planned.
Yeah, he's not that great.
Which hurts because I believe we gave up a second for him.
Third.
Okay, that makes you feel
If
slightly
I'm not
better.
mistaken.
I think it is a
second.
third actually,
Oh.
because I was looking up the draft
It was
picks
a
for the
third.
Commanders,
Yes.
and we had our second, and that surprised me because I thought we'd given up the second. And it's not guard. Not really a position I'm looking to take here. Running back, Brian Robinson, I don't think is the future. He's a solid piece. He's not terrible. But with no Hampton or Genty here, and I don't expect him to get here. I think they'll look to go running back later in a deep running back class. There's a lot of quality guys left. And so that kind of leaves edge as where I'm looking. I kind of basically already said who I'm going to take. Supreme athlete, freakish athlete. The production, especially sack-wise, was not there at A&M, and that is scary. But, I mean, I watched every A&M game. He would just, pop off the screen multiple times, just blow up a play, get in the backfield instantly before you could even really blink. And so I think the Commanders like the high upside he has, and hopefully that they can turn that high upside and athletic ability into production. Once again, I basically already spoiled my pick, but with the 29th pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Washington Commanders select Shamar Stewart, edge out of Texas A&M. I love this pick because also that puts an Aggie on my favorite NFL team, and that's just a good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talking about Washington Commanders running backs takes me back. I don't know if you saw. I was just
I
looking at
did.
Bryce Love.
I was like, when we drafted Bryce Love, I was like, oh, shoot.
I drafted him every year, and I drafted him 2 or 3 years in a row in fantasy and put him on my IR because he started every season injured. I feel like it was
We had
always
ACL issues.
Yeah.
Dating back to college.
Mm-hmm. And so I would draft him like last round for the first 2 or 3 years of his career and just stash him on my IR, hoping that he would come back and put it together. Because I thought he was going to be the next big thing.
Especially on he came kind of on the tails of Christian McCaffrey at
Uh-huh,
Stanford, and it
yep.
was like, oh shoot, here we go. Not quite the same archetype, but just same team.
It
similar.
started. It felt like the Wisconsin run they had with Jonathan Taylor, before Melvin Gordon, and then they had another guy, and then they had Jonathan Taylor.
And then Braylon Allen was around.
Was he? I don't remember.
Yeah, he was.
Who was the guy between
I don't know.
Melvin? It was somebody.
And then we also have Darius Geis. I was kind of had high hopes
Oh,
for
yeah.
him, and that was another Washington Commanders running back draft pick that
He was
didn't
an
work
LSU
out.
guy.
He was an LSU guy and got in trouble with the law. I don't think he would have been great regardless. He hadn't really flashed yet at the NFL level, but that definitely put the nail in the coffin. But yeah, I would love this pick as a Commanders fan, because I think it's good value here, but then also it's an Aggie. So I think that puts JP on the clock at 30
Indeed, it does.
with the Bills.
Yeah, I'm gonna shock the world here.
Go ahead and shock the world, JP.
In my mock, the guy who was picked 4th overall tonight was available here at 30, and so I took Kelvin Banks Jr. Because if that's a spot where for some reason he was there, or maybe even Josh Simmons, I feel like the Bills could end up taking offensive line, although they do need a ton of help defensively, because they don't want a tackle to fall to the Chiefs at 31. If you're extending Josh Allen to this big deal, you're going to have to beat Mahomes every year if you want to make it to the Super Bowl. Their biggest gripe in Kansas City has been offensive line for years. That's lost them 2 Super Bowls, you could argue. So you have a chance to take away a player that they would love to take. You take them. That's not the case here. So I'm going to take a guy who I absolutely love. It's another safety. In our first mock draft, we had Xavier Watts going to the Bills at 30 overall. We kind of love that pick. It made a ton of sense for them. It fills a very big need for them, with their safeties being Marcus Epps and then DeMar Hamlin. But I'm gonna go with somebody else here. With the 30th overall pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Buffalo Bills, future Super Bowl champion Buffalo Bills of 2025, or 2026, I should say, select Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State. His average draft position, safety out of Penn State. His average draft position on PFF is 72nd overall. This is a guy who has, out of a guy who's watched,
I was going to say, you've seen a lot, all 22 of him, haven't you?
that I've watched. I didn't get to see a lot of all 22. He tore his ACL in the second game of the season last year. This guy is extremely physically imposing. Not that, this is the second time I make this reference, but not that the NFL is a video game, but if you play against him in College Football 25, this guy is, man, he's everywhere. He's a high flyer. He's a tall physical safety, a lot like how I described Will Johnson. He's 6'2" as well. He tore his ACL in the second game of the season, so he would likely be available to play in the first week of the season for the Bills. He had an outstanding sophomore campaign, and this was a guy that was probably going to be, he was definitely going to be in the first round, and had a chance to be in the top 20. And then he tears his ACL for Penn State. It was a huge loss for them as a defense, but it was a big reason why I loved Penn State early on, through the first 2 weeks before he tears his ACL against Bowling Green. I think he has the potential to be better than Xavier Watts. Xavier Watts is the safer pick, in my opinion. Not really a hot take. Xavier Watts has played a lot of football. He's a graduate, and he's going to be older than Kevin Winston, and he's also not coming off a torn ACL, and he played a ton of snaps, really all over the ballpark for Notre Dame last year. But if you're the Bills, you want difference makers, especially defensively, and not necessarily always consistent players, because what you're playing against, the Chiefs. You're going to play against the Ravens. They're going to have good players as well. But it's like for the Chiefs specifically, their consistent players are consistently good more often. And I just don't think that drafting for consistency is going to be something that's going to help you beat Kansas City, which is the mountain ultimately you have to climb right now.
Agreed.
So draft take a chance on a playmaker, and Kevin Winston, and somebody that could potentially give Mahomes fits down the road. Especially, I would be surprised if they don't go safety here. They need one. They need to get either him or Xavier Watts. I don't really think that's really even an option
The good news is
for them.
I think they'll have at least one on the board here.
Yeah.
So I don't think they have to worry too much about not getting either. I can't say I know a ton about the guy, but I agree with safety here. So I'll trust you.
Yep, 100%.
He's a ball hawk. That's a big thing about him. He only has one interception in his career, but he only really played 1 year as a sophomore for Penn State. But he's outstanding in man-to-man. He plays good pretty much anywhere, free safety, in the box, in the slot. But he's the way the scouts describe him is he's a guy that is just always in the right place at the right time. And it's safety.
That's what you want.
That's exactly what you want.
All right. Is that me?
Yeah, puts you on the clock with the
worst
Chiefs.
team in the NFL.
Yep.
Your last pick. JP just made his last pick, his last GM pick.
Yep.
Congrats on a successful night.
Kansas
Hopefully,
City
we may be
Chiefs.
firing you down the line. A couple of these.
I think I'm going to get the best grade. That'll be posted on. We'll post it on some.
You're just
social
going to
media.
average the grades
Yeah,
of
we
every
don't-
pick.
No,
How-
I'm saying like we'll ask the audience
Oh, gotcha.
Oh.
on social medias who
Mm.
had the best night.
All right. Over
Does
under
PFF
four
grade
and
our
a half
draft?
responses. How many are we getting?
Under.
Over easily.
Where are we posting this?
If it goes on TikTok, we're
I'm gonna post on TikTok. I'm gonna post 3 TikToks, one of each of our
Okay.
everyone's picks as
I-
like the 10
I-
photos.
then we'll get over 4.5 responses.
Yeah,
if,
yeah.
if TikTok chimes in.
Yeah, that's why I'm taking the over by 1,000,000.
Yeah.
We can do an Instagram poll or something.
I could I don't
Post it
know,
on Twitter.
make a video of grass growing. I think we get over 4.5 comments on TikTok. If I made some claim.
I don't know.
If I was like,
we
that's
got
fair.
0
This-
on
this-
our last one.
what do you mean last one?
We've gotten very few on a couple of them. All of our comments have been us.
The last one had of Kyle McCord.
Yeah. Do you count comments from us?
No.
We had more than 0 on the last one.
And we had 2.
Huge.
Not from 2 accounts that weren't us that commented on.
But see,
our
that's like
last
Kyle McCord
pick. True.
TikTok.
I started the timer and I'm gonna restart it.
Okay.
Nah, man, the clock's been running, man.
All right.
I'm
The Kansas City Chiefs need help along the offensive line. After their loss to the Super Bowl in the Super Bowl to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they went to great lengths to improve the offensive line. They improved it for 3 years, and now they're letting pieces of that offensive line walk. Specifically, the offensive tackle they brought in from Baltimore. So I think that they're gonna hit offensive line. There's 2 guys sitting here, Gray Zabel and Josh Connolly. And it comes back again to how much do you value quality of opponent. You have Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State, an FCS school, best FCS school in the country, arguably. Did they win it? If
No,
they
I
didn't,
think South Dakota won it this
Yeah.
year.
but they are always in the mix. And then you have Josh Connolly Jr., who played for Oregon.
I'll slide in and steal some thunder. I think this Nick Wright, Chiefs fan, big sports media guy,
Go for it.
has been arguing that this is not a spot that they necessarily needed to take a tackle or an offensive lineman in general. I completely disagree. I think this has to be offensive lineman. I think you've lost 2 Super Bowls because your offensive line just wasn't up to the task on that fateful Sunday. I don't think you have no true needs outside of that. Maybe someone to help alongside Chris Jones in rushing the passer, since he's kind of been the only option for a couple years.
Yep.
Bringing back Trey Smith was important, but like Sanders said, this will be now the second year without Orlando Bloom. Orlando, not Orlando.
I'll say Orlando.
Orlando Brown. Were
I-
you trolling or did you
Orlando
actually?
Brown. No, I
Okay,
I
cool.
Orlando Bloom really
I
bulked up
misspoke.
from his Pirates of the Caribbean
Yeah.
days.
Orlando Brown Jr. And then you lost Joe Tooney, who played a decent year but had to go out there and play left tackle, which he just wasn't used to.
Yep.
I would argue this kind of has to be offensive lineman, even if it's maybe for them it might be a reach on Zabel or Connerly. I just don't think you have a choice. You have Patrick Mahomes.
You better protect him.
He's got a chance to be the greatest of all time. He's lost 2 Super Bowls because your offensive line wasn't good enough. Fix it.
All right. Cool. I'm ready to make my pick. With the 31st pick in the 2025 Technical Foul 2.0 mock draft, the Kansas City Chiefs are selecting Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State.
The Chefs.
The Chiefs.
I'm a big fan of the
The
chefs.
Chefs.
Yeah, the Chefs.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
And that brings us to the final pick of the draft. I like the pick, by the way, Sanders.
Appreciate it.
The Eagles, the Super Bowl champions, are on the clock here. They're just kind of looking to plug some of the holes that kind of, I don't even know, because they didn't get the holes that appeared after they kind of got rated free agency wise a little bit.
Yes.
They can't pay everyone. They had so many good players.
Correct.
But they've drafted so well, so you just kind of hopefully you just keep replacing the players that you lose.
Mm-hmm.
They lost a good bit on the D line, so that'd be something I'd kind of probably where I'm going to focus here. And the question is, do they want to go interior with like a Norman Lott type beat, or we looking more edge? Is that not how you say his name?
No,
No, it is.
I have a trade offer.
You have a trade offer.
Yes.
Fire away,
Um,
JP. Let's hear it.
The New Orleans Saints are willing to offer the 40th and the 71st pick in tonight's draft for the 32nd pick and your 5th round pick next year.
So you're trading back 8 spots. You're losing the 5th year option. And you're offering, you said the 40th and what?
71st.
For 32 and this year's 4th?
A 5th
Next
round
year's
pick
fifth.
and next year.
Would you drop next year's 5th?
If you gave me next year's 7th.
Next year's 7th is basically nothing, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm happy with that. How that aspect of the deal has worked out. Now it's do I want to drop back 8 spots?
New Orleans Saints, I mean, who are they coming in to get?
I will accept your trade because it's fun, but I want to go in and say who I would have picked if I'm the Eagles.
Okay, cool.
Go ahead.
I would take Michael Williams out of Georgia. Just got another bulldog, high talent.
Literally, the pipeline from Georgia to
Just makes sense.
Philly.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best athletes on the edge in this class.
Mhm.
If you go watch the tape from the regular season Texas game, he was all over the place.
Mhm.
So, but
All right.
I'm not on the clock anymore.
Yeah,
so
go ahead and play the
Whoa,
sound.
whoa. Let's try. I wanted to dissect for just a second here.
Oh, okay, sure.
I think we're going to have a. So Steve Palazzolo, I'm a big fan of his podcast with Sam Monson. He is he would love to see a team attempt the just throw darts at the QB wall, theoretical QB wall, and see what sticks. Kind of like the former Washington Redskins did in 2012 with RG3 and Kirk Cousins. So yeah, I really wish you were gonna pick Jackson Dart here, because then you would have Shadur Sanders and Jackson Dart. Because right, the theory there is if you have 2 guys who like. If you argue it's a 50-50 shot, right, that it's a bust or it works out, you double your chances of hitting because you have 2 guys. So, I think it's a fun theory. I don't think any team has tried it, but it would be very funny if that's what you were thinking. It's not, unfortunately. So.
It's not what I'm thinking. I'm trying to find the tweet because you said that the odds are
They're not 50-50. That was
50-50.
Man, that's a great picture of a chicken shaking Roger
Yeah,
Goodell's
that's-
hand.
If I had to guess, the odds are probably like 15 to
it's
18%.
12 out of 30, so less than 50%. That's 42.5%.
That's actually way closer than 50 that I was thinking.
Let
this
me
is for
let me make
first-round
sure
quarterbacks,
this
right?
engineer can do simple math. 40%. Sorry, that's 40% hit rate, not 50.
If I had to guess, I
On
would
first
guess
round quarterbacks since 2013, from 2013 to 2022. So not the past 2 years drafts because we can't really make
We
a
don't know.
claim
Yeah.
fully yet. 12 of 30 first round quarterbacks were successful NFL starters.
How do they measure success? Do we
Just
know?
like consistent, won some games.
So they would count Baker Mayfield as a successful quarterback.
Yeah, he
said
was a successful quarterback starter for the Browns. Yeah, 100%. He made the playoffs.
No, I agree. I just didn't
Yeah.
know if because like he didn't stay. I didn't know there was like a they
Second
have
contract
to stay at
and
their team,
No,
right?
no,
because he got
not that
traded.
they have to stay with their team, but like in those first 4 years,
what do they do?
they were good. They
Okay. So would they count?
they kept being the starter.
Would they count Carson? I guess Carson Wentz would be a successful quarterback.
Yeah, he was an MVP candidate.
Yeah. Interesting.
Helped lead them to a Super Bowl joint with
Yeah.
Nicholas.
Yeah, Nick Foles. I don't know. It's just interesting if you make the qualifications so short term. I feel like that because I don't know that I would. I mean, Carson Wentz was a successful quarterback, but I wouldn't say that the Eagles are like hit on that because he fizzled out very quickly, and you realize that okay, maybe
Yeah, he got hurt very quickly, and then
this is
he
fair.
just couldn't get across injuries. It also led them to having Jalen Hurts in the building. So
Correct. They're very grateful for that.
I don't think they should hate Carson Wentz that much.
I don't think they hate him. I'm just curious, like how I would rate his success as a quarterback.
I think that's an interesting take, but I don't see it as 2 first round picks.
Yeah,
It would make more sense for it to be a first round pick than a third, or you
that's
could
what
see, you could see the
Redskins did
second
in
round pick.
2012.
Yeah, you could see the second round pick of a quarterback like Milroe, and then later you take maybe Dylan Gabriel or someone.
Yeah.
If you wanted to bring in 2.
Oh,
But,
let me go do this trade.
You want to
Yeah.
make your pick?
Yeah, as soon as Sanders gets my trade in there.
Saints
Let me get the Saints in here at 32.
40 to 32, forced trade.
All right, I'm ready. Go ahead and play this out. With the 32nd pick in the 2025 Technical Foul Mock Draft 2.0, the Philadelphia Eagles have traded their pick to the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans selects Michael Williams, edge defender, Georgia.
Good pick.
I see that. I saw that as a spot where he's sitting there still on the board. He probably should have been drafted a little bit higher. The Eagles have been notorious, at least in previous years, of stockpiling a few more picks. And
Because
then
they'll just hit on all their later
they'll
picks. So.
hit on later picks, draft for depth because they have so much talent on the front end that you can just fill in talent, young guys that can. Then a lot of them they've played well. The corner that started this year for them, what was his name?
For who?
The Philadelphia Eagles.
The corner?
Yeah.
Cooper?
DeJean?
Well, Cooper DeJean was really good. That and then he fell to them. There was another guy they had, as well. But yeah, they've done this very, very well. They take I'd be surprised if they took this trade with the Saints, but the GM here tonight took the trade with the Saints. And if Michael Williams is here, they'd take him immediately.
It was not Keely Ringo. Quinyon Mitchell.
Quinyon Mitchell, that was the name I was looking for. He was a later pick, and he did really well for them this year for the Eagles.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see. I do see a scenario where they trade this pick. Yeah, the 5th-year option is cool and everything, but I think they're in a spot where they're like, let's get young guys on these 4-year contracts, not necessarily expensive contracts. Let's take 3 more really big swings at a Super Bowl, and then let's clean up house and let's just restart. Let's try it again. Let's go be bad for 1 or 2 years, go try to hit another quarterback and continue that way. It's worked. It's what they did prior to the Nick Foles Super Bowl. They were kind of okay for a year or two, and then they were just not great as they continued to try to play Carson Wentz. And then Jalen Hurts took over, and here we are. I kind of expect them to do a similar thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if they trade this pick. But I love the pick for the Saints. I think this would be a dream scenario, being able to get a playmaker like Michael Williams, who could shore up a lot of positions for the Saints, linebacker as well as an edge rusher. And when we're being forced to take a quarterback at 9th overall, I wouldn't hate being able to also add defense. And I think the later picks are probably going to have to be defense for the Saints in the 2nd and 3rd rounds.
Well, they no longer have their 2nd or 3rd round pick.
But we're fine with it because we got a
Sure,
playmaker,
sure.
Michael Williams.
I mean, I like the pick. I literally just said if I was the Eagles, that would have been my pick. So I agree.
JP just stole it from Jack. That's
Good
crazy.
call. That's all. That's the end of the draft.
It was like 2:15, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Not any shorter. We didn't really keep to the 3-minute timer.
That's unfortunate.
I feel like we did a decent job.
We didn't do a great job.
When making our picks,
we
yes,
made it,
we
but then we
talked
broke
over.
it down afterwards.
Yeah.
But none of us. I mean, I wasn't gonna sit here and be like, "Sorry, guys, we got to move on."
We
Yeah.
do.
Um,
We're going to have to move on draft night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but on
Only
draft
get
night we'll have
10
10 minutes instead of 3.
That's fair. I guess that is kind of still a lot of time.
Yeah.
do we like this mock better than our first?
Oh, yeah, I love it. I think it's a lot better.
I have a couple issues with it.
I
but
do think there's a lot of reaches, and they particularly happen just about every 3 picks if you start at a particular position. No, I still don't understand. I think Kelvin Banks is too high, in my opinion.
That's fair.
I don't necessarily understand Ted McMillan to the Jets. I just don't think that's the way Aaron Glenn would go. But you're the GM, so it's
Yeah.
your decision.
True. I like drafting wide receivers. More fun.
I think there was a lot of players that fell, which
The Jahdae Barron slide was crazy.
Jahdae
and that
Barron was a slide. Will Campbell is a slide.
Yep.
In my opinion, Will Johnson shouldn't be a guy that should fall to the top 10. But then again, the teams that are there, they don't necessarily need him. So it's definitely could something.
Yeah. I don't know how
happen.
Jahdae Barron slid as far as he did. It felt like every time I was up to pick, it wasn't a team that needed cornerback.
Yep.
Sure. And I do think that it honestly is a little true of this draft. That
Only a
it's
few teams.
yeah. But I do think he's good enough that one of the few teams will snap him up.
Yeah.
Um,
And I didn't
earlier
have the
than that.
guts to just take best player available.
Yeah.
You kind of the Dolphins are a spot where he would make sense, but you made the claim that Christian Wilkins' loss is something you need to fill, and I don't hate that
Yeah.
claim at all. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I know you weren't the highest. I mean, you call Walter Nolan a reach as well.
No, I actually think Walter Nolan's an excellent player.
He's just an Ole Miss hater. So
True.
Yeah,
True. Who isn't?
I think he. I mean, I would love him if the Saints somehow got him for some reason. So I don't hate him as a player whatsoever. I just dislike Jackson Dart, and Trey Amos isn't good. So I'm proud of us for not taking Jackson Dart. I still
Good
kind of
work,
feel
team.
like that's a reach.
do we think the odds of only 2 QBs?
I think that's
Going-
extremely low.
I agree.
think
It's just not the
take the
case in
over on
NFL
2.5.
drafts. I also don't think. I
But
think a fifth.
NFL GMs are comparing this draft to the 2022 draft with Kenny Pickett. So,
Fair. I think a 5th receiver is very likely. I think the average over the past.
Who would
Andrew
be the
Jeremiah
5th
said it.
receiver?
Higgins out of Iowa
Higgins
State.
maybe the guy from Stanford.
Manor, yeah.
Yeah, you could see those. I mean, I guess you count Travis Hunter as a receiver maybe.
True.
So he's kind of the 5th, but
Yeah. that makes sense.
on
Then-
average you've had 5.5 receivers taken in the first round.
And I feel like there's one every year
over
where
the
it's
past
like
5 years.
this guy went in the first round.
Yeah,
and
I
I don't
agree.
feel like we
So
have that.
maybe
that guy.
Isaiah Bond.
Isaiah Bond could be that guy
I
maybe.
mean, he was a speedster at Texas. His 40-yard dash time didn't show it, but he was faster on tape than Matthew Golden, who ran a 4.27. So I could see Bond going in the first round. Well, not I could see. it wouldn't make sense. I would not like it, but I could see
You
an
can see it
NFL
happening.
I could see it happening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess
I would disagree with JP. I don't think we're going to see another wide receiver. I think this is a very defensive heavy class and a trench heavy class, and I think that we'll see that next Thursday night as it unfolds. But
I guess we'll turn over our mock to the public and let them give us their thoughts. But this was fun. Thanks for tuning in. Do you have anything else to add before we close? It's past midnight here, by the way, so
time to go home and go
yeah,
to bed.
ready for some sleep.
Yeah, I'm good, guys.
Bet. See y'all next time. Peace.
ya.